Yes, very easy. Thank you.
We're not going to have the little, so we don't wait for the introduction for this?
Oh.
It's up to the staff. Are we, is this broadcast outside?
Yes, Mayor. So for the first time, we are open to the public this evening, and they do have the video they're going to queue
Okay,
up right now
thank you.
for us. Thank you.
There it goes.
Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and the speaker request cards are located on the tables outside of council chambers. You must fill out a speaker card in order to address the City Council. Please hand in your completed card to the City Clerk before the start of the meeting. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to any city staff. You may also check the I do not wish to speak option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The City Clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and state your name for the record. We ask that you speak clearly into the microphone. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes, and there is a timer visible from the podium. When the light changes from green to yellow, your time is coming to an end. When the light turns red, your time is up. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook and YouTube, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Thank you for your participation in tonight's meeting.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting, June 8th, 2020. Please join Councilmember Pasillo in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty Father, we face many challenges in front of us as a nation. I ask you to provide wisdom and guidance to our national leaders to stop the divisiveness and start working for the American people to address the challenges facing our nation. Father, provide a way for us to move forward as a nation, working together for the benefit of all our citizens. I ask that you remove the COVID virus from our lives, which has impacted the world with unimaginable pain and suffering. I also ask that you protect all of our men and women in uniform, both here and abroad, and keep them from harm. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Pasillo. That was a very, very nice prayer for so many of us. All right, we have one communication item tonight, and so I've already met the gentleman, Jeffrey Huber.
Huber, that's fine.
Yeah, you can come forward.
Thank you.
Just be sure that you speak into the microphone so we can
Okay.
hear you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yes, how you doing, people? My name is Jeffrey Huber. I'm 52 years old. I have a job, and I'm currently homeless. And I'm hoping that maybe my job is just to make people aware of what's going on out here in the world. You guys are trying to build a big city just like Avondale. Big city come big problems. And right now, where I work at the Goodyear food store, I see constantly, every single day, people come and go, and I see the drugs, I see everything. And I'm still dealing with the same people after 2 or 3 years. And I understand that free will is one thing, but tough love, I know there's only so much that we can do as a society. But some of these people have lost their way so far, And I'm just trying to bring people together. That's what I do. I'm associated with 2 nonprofit organizations. Every Saturday, we feed 30, 40 people. So I have the people, but I have no way to call anybody in the middle of the night to this guy wants to get off drugs. I have nobody to call. I have no outlet, no tools available to me. I work with Sergeant Mary Ward, my hero. I deal with her all the time. Like I said, I could talk about myself for hours, but these people know what I'm trying to do, and they know me. So I just want to say thank you very much, and God bless America.
Well, just wait a minute, I just want to thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very bold of you to be able to come and say this, and I think we all agree with you that something has to be done, and I think all the cities are realizing that. It's just, if we ever do, whatever we do, it has to be right, it has to be sustainable, so we have to be very careful on how
Together.
we plan this. And the West Valley cities are very close, and so somehow, I feel very strongly.
Yes.
And
So what's
you
happening
are
now, ma'am?
always able, you live in
Yes.
Avondale, right?
Yes.
You are
Well,
always able to go to the council and ask if you can be a part of this board, the committee, when we form one.
Yes.
There's nothing better than having someone who's living it. So, thank you
I
very
went to,
much.
I went to the state capitol in January. They recognized me on the floor. Lorenzo Sierra is my good friend, but right now, I can only give people love and hope is all I can do.
Yes,
I give away everything I got. Okay, that's a good thing, but I need more people on board because it's getting worse every day.
I
ma'am.
understand
single
that. We had a big voice here, thank you.
Okay, thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless America. Donald Trump, 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, let's go to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read consent agenda items 1 through 9 only, please?
Number 1, approval of minutes. Number 2, authorize the fiscal year 2020 listed expenditures in excess of $500,000. Number 3, approve the final plat of Cantamia Parcel 36 and Parcel 37, subject to stipulations. Number 4, approve the final plat for Estrella Parcel 9.30 and accept dedication of a permanent, non-exclusive drainage and access easement and 2 public utilities, sidewalk, and access easements required for the development of Estrella Parcel 9.30. Number 5, adopt resolution number 2020-2062, conditionally vacating and abandoning a portion of a street known as West Mountain Vista Drive, declaring a public utility, sidewalk, and access easement, providing for a recordation of the resolution, providing for an effective date, and imposing requirements and conditions for the abandonment to become effective, and imposing a deadline for completion of the abandonment. Number 2 of number 5 is approve the final plat of Estrella parcels 9.22 and 9.24A and B, subject to stipulations. Number 6, adopt resolution number 2020-2067, approving development agreement for expansion of Rainbow Valley Water Reclamation Facility, providing authorization and direction to take actions and execute documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and development agreement, and providing for an effective date. Number 7, adopt resolution number 2020-2068, approving a development agreement for Estrella Parcel 9.30, providing authorization and direction to take actions and execute documents necessary to carry out the intent of the resolution and development agreement, and providing for an effective date. Number 8, approve the budgeted fiscal year 2021 fleet funds for the purchase and upfitting of replacement and new vehicles. Number 9, approve the issuance of an enhanced improvements and access easement to the Estrella Joint Community Incorporated for the maintenance and operation of certain enhanced improvements that have been placed in the Hillside Drive right-of-way.
Thank you. Does anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? No? Okay. May I then have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 9? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Kano, I heard your motion, a second from Vice Mayor Stipp. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kano.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you so much. There are 2 public hearings on the agenda. So number 10, the first public hearing item is to consider rezoning approximately 82 acres from Riverside Park preliminary planned area development, PAD to 1-2, general industrial with 70-foot height overlay. Open the public hearing. Well, welcome. Planner Christian Williams will present.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Lord and City Council. I'm here before you this evening with a request from Fred Fleet, representing the property owner, Iron Line Partners Goodyear 82 LLC, to conduct a rezoning of the Goodyear 82 property. The subject property is located in the central area of Goodyear, just west of the southwest corner of Saraville Avenue and Maricopa County Highway 85. The red shape and star indicates the property's location within central Goodyear. The property is approximately 82 acres and is currently zoned preliminarily zoned for Riverside Park planned area development. As mentioned on the previous slide, the property is currently zoned for Riverside Park preliminarily planned area development. The zoning is for 82 acres, and the subject property is currently contained within the larger Riverside Park preliminary planned area development and was approved on December 12th, 2005 through ordinance number 2005-976. The preliminarily zoned development plan calls for a mix of single-family dwelling units configured on 2-pack lots or Z lots and a 60-foot wide lots. Neighboring this property, just west of the utility quarter and adjacent to the gas line utility quarter, is an additional configuration of 60-foot wide lots and 70-foot wide lots. And they're contemplated as part of the Riverside Park preliminary planned area development. I should not have written down this word so many times. But beyond those residential homes is a business park, and it's zoned its own business park. The map on the right shows the current preliminary zoning, and keep in mind that in order to get a final preliminary or final PAD, the developer has to take the remaining portions of the property through the public process and establish that zoning. The red line here indicates the 82 acres of Riverside Park that we're now going to refer to as Goodyear 82, and we're going to discuss those details this evening. The applicant is requesting a zoning change from the preliminary zoning to an I-2 general industrial zoning. Further, the applicant requests a PAD overlay for the Goodyear 82 property for the sole purposes of increasing the allowable maximum building height up to 70 feet. The additional height, going from 50 feet to 70 feet, is intended to accommodate a wider range of industrial users that are routinely seeking building heights in excess of 50 feet. The map now reflects a simplified illustration of how the zoning will remain if the rezoning is approved. The Goodyear 82 property is in red. Since the 2005 preliminary approval of Riverside Park, the proposed alignment for the Arizona State Route 30, known as the Tres Rios Freeway, has been adjusted. The property is now within the future right-of-way of the State Route 30, as identified on the adopted Loop 303 from I-10 to proposed State Route 30 final approved design concept report, which is dated 2018. The alignment for this freeway has shifted to the north and will now likely run through the center of Riverside Park as opposed to south of it or through the eastern corner of it. Considering the revised State Route 30 Tres Rios Freeway alignment, the Goodyear 82 property is more suitable for development opportunities other than single-family residential. The map on the left shows you the vacant property and the proposed freeway. The image to the right shows where the freeway will travel through the property from a proposed and preliminary zoning perspective. From a general plan and land use perspective, there is support to shift from residential to industrial in this area. More specifically, the general plan designates the land use category for this property as industrial. I've highlighted the property with a red star on the map, so that's right down here. And due to this fact, a rezone of this property from residential uses to industrial uses would more closely align with the vision found in the general plan. In fact, everything from the Riverside Park preliminary PAD plan is now solely within industrial land use category. Additionally, the property is located between Maricopa County Highway 85, the proposed route of the Arizona State Route 30 Tres Rios Freeway, and approximately 1.25 miles east of the future Stack interchange for Arizona State Route 30, which is called the Stump and Estrella Freeway, and the Tres Rios Freeway. The property is also near the Southern Pacific Rail Line, and due to these factors, it seems appropriate for the property to serve as an industrial development. Now let's discuss the height increase proposal and how it relates to the surrounding areas. As stated early in the presentation, the additional height from 50 feet to 70 feet is intended to accommodate a wider range of industrial users that are routinely seeking building heights in excess of 50 feet. Staff believes the increased height will be compatible with the existing, much taller, high-capacity power lines that pass by the property to the south and the future Stack interchange of Arizona State Route 30 Freeway and Arizona State Route 303 Estrella Stump Freeway extension. However, Stipulation 1 was added to prohibit buildings exceeding 50 feet in height within 500 feet of property that is zoned for residential use in the case that the State Route 30 freeway alignment should change. Staff has evaluated the impacts of this proposed rezoning and its impact on the surrounding properties. With no major concerns being found, staff is recommending you approve a rezone of 82-acre portion of Riverside Park preliminary planned area development to I-2 general industrial with a PAD overlay to allow for building heights in up to 70 feet, subject to the stipulations found in the ordinance. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak? All right, I'm going to close the hearing. And will the city clerk please read resolution number 2020-2047 by title only, please?
Adopt resolution number 2020-2047, declaring a public record those certain documents filed with the city clerk entitled Official Supplementary Zoning Map Number 19-02, City of Goodyear, Arizona, rezone case, and legal description Goodyear 82.
Thank you very much. Just to let council know, we're going to have 2 votes on this, okay? So the first one, may I have a motion, a second, to approve resolution number 2020-2047? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard that motion from Councilman Loretano, a second from Councilman Pizzillo. All right, open for council discussion. Councilman Loretano.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I don't have a problem with rezoning. I think you laid out all the reasons why it's appropriate, especially with the freeway. It's not a good housing area. But is there a reason why they didn't take that bottom piece and want to rezone that too, since that's an industrial area?
Go to the map real quick.
Yeah, that little, it still says housing.
Are you talking about which portion?
On the second side under Tres Rios where it's like tan? Is
Oh,
it-
yes. That is owned by a different group of individuals.
Oh, okay, so it's not the same group.
Correct.
Okay.
And that'd be south of the future State Route 30 as well.
I assume they will be coming back at some point.
They would need to because the zoning east of this property is all preliminary. And since 2005, the area has changed quite a bit. And since that's only preliminary zoning, to get a final zoning, they would have to go through the entire public process again.
Okay. I just was wondering, that makes sense, it's another group, so thank you, I'm good.
Yes, Councilman Hammond.
Yeah, a quick question, well, a couple questions. So that slide there to the right, that grayish line, is that the old proposed route for SR 30?
Correct.
Okay. And is the proposed route right now is the recommended route?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So we don't foresee it necessarily. Once it's recommended, they usually don't. It shouldn't change very often.
Yeah, according to their 2018 report, that's the recommended alignment.
Okay, I thought it was pretty solidified. And then where is the park? Good. I thought there was also, didn't we zone a park down around the general area down
Are
there?
you referring to Lakin Park, that development?
No, an actual park. I thought there was going to be a City of Goodyear park somewhere down in that general area.
There is a development agreement, which is a part of the King Ranch development, and that would have a linear park. Now, whether that will become an ultimate city park or just a open space, there are park spaces provided that would be within King Ranch as it's currently
Okay,
stated.
so south of the river, not
Correct.
on this portion here. Okay, for some reason I thought there was a large park in the future somewhere down there.
And Nathan might have additional information, but I believe on the Parks and Rec master plan, there's a generally identified area along the Gila River where a park would go, but that site specifically has not been identified.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure we're not encroaching on that potential park, so. And then, what's the height of Macy's and the other buildings around that general area?
That's a good question. I believe they're around 50 or so feet.
Okay, so this would be,
This would be taller, but in context of this site, you do have those large power lines that would
Yeah.
be taller than this building even. And then the stack, if you think about how tall a 5 or 4 stack would be, you're going to have some pretty tall buildings within the area.
where do we think the stack is going to be for the proposed? It'd be back farther, closer to Cotton, right? Not on Cerebral.
Correct. Yeah, so you'll have the interchange about 1.25 miles from the site.
1.2 mile, okay.
About 1.2.
So it'll definitely be bigger than Anderson, bigger than Macy's.
Has an
bigger than
opportunity to be bigger, not for certain, but this would have opportunity to be a little bit taller than that. But it would be buffered on both sides by some additional industrial zonings,
Okay,
as well as the power lines, the 30. It's wedged in
30
between all that.
kV and the, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Wally?
Can you tell me
Councilman
what the
Campbell?
stipulations are?
I don't have them all written in front of me, but one is related to, a lot of them are really related to off-site roadway constructions, utilities, and stipulation 1 is really in reference to housing being nearby. So since that is preliminary PAD, it makes the assumption that the housing would be removed, which, to be frank, staff would not support residential in that preliminary PAD since the character of the area has changed and the general plan has been updated. But that stipulation 1 really is a safeguard for staff and for council, frankly, as it relates to residential.
Is there language in there to protect the city for?
Wally, could you just put that microphone a little bit closer?
Certainly. Is there
Thank you.
language in there in the stipulations to protect the city for any infrastructure charges or road enhancements or anything? Is that going to be part of it so that we're not paying for that?
Yeah, there's a lot of protections within the stipulations for off-site infrastructure that's related to this project.
Okay, thank
And then
you.
the IIP would cover anything else.
The what?
The IIP, Infrastructure
thank
Improvement
you.
Plan.
Any other questions? Yes. Councilman Kano?
Christian, have we approved any residential along the MC 85?
To my knowledge, there has not been any new residential that's gone along MC 85. We had the preliminary Riverside Park, and then we worked with Lakin, as you'll recall, to get them to rezone that property, or to get the general plan updated, and we're working with them on that property as well. So the goal in this corridor is to not have residential.
Good. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Councilman Hampton.
I had another question. So SR 30, I know phase 1 is supposed to be a flat road, I understand. And then is SR 30 phase 2 supposed to be a raised one like the 303 is now?
That's a
Will
good
there be some height to that as well?
I'm trying to recall. I don't have the plan in my head right now, but I do know that when it does intersect with SR or the 303 and the 30, there will definitely be some height there. I know with Cotton Lane, there's some configuration, so there'll be some overpasses
Some
in the area.
passovers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious if that'll be some height on it as well. I think like Northern Parkway, it can be flat
And then it has some overpasses.
and it's overpasses, but I was just curious if this is gonna be like a 303 up higher, and then that would make it look, the 20-foot wouldn't make a big difference necessarily.
Especially when you get to that interchange, one of those roads is going to have to go over. So you're going to get some height definitely there because it's going to be a 4 or 5 stack.
Okay, and the other side of this is all zoned residential currently, right? South of
It is currently agriculture, but per the general plan, it's to go to industrial. So up north of the river, you essentially have business and commerce and industrial.
Okay, and
And
south.
within that, you have the KV power lines that go through, and then you have the freeway buffering it as well.
Yeah, I know they got that water retention through that general area there too, the freeway water.
There will be that too as well, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Christopher, I
have no issue with this. This is the appropriate use of this land if I've ever seen it. We're concentrating on the other side, which then is between the SR 30 and the river. Are you familiar with the floodplains in that area?
I know that per the King Ranch plan, there's some work that needs to be done to channelize some of that.
And this is not part of the King's Ranch plan, so this is west of there.
It's north of there, yes.
Oh, north, yeah, north.
It's much, yep. King
It's-
Ranch would be
the river.
down here.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. So, which we know that the floodplain is to the south, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know how much farther north it goes? Because we're talking about a freeway, a floodplain, and a river. I don't think we're going to see houses in there, although I've been wrong a number of times, but I don't think that that's a place that people are going to drive to, go, oh, let me put houses here. But other than that, I think this is the appropriate use of the land, and I also have no problem with the building height change.
Any other questions? Well, there is farming in that area.
Pardon?
Or there's been farming in that area. So I can tell you that I was approached, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago about a farmer in that floodplain. And he wasn't really enthusiastic about it because it's going to take some of his land. So if anything, since they've investigated this to put SR 30, that is probably the only question I've really gotten about it. And we're talking about it so much. You think Mag and all the rest of the other mayors will hear this, so our meetings, they'll start it? No, I'm just kidding. And now we bonded because the same word that you have trouble with, I do every meeting, so it's very difficult. So thank you, and good presentation. All right, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp,
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kano,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well, good. Will the city clerk please read ordinance number 2020-1466 by title only, please?
Adopt ordinance number 2020-1466, conditionally rezoning approximately 82 acres within Riverside Park preliminary planned area development from PAD to I-2 general industrial with a PAD overlay, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, corrections, severability, an effective date, and penalties.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, a second, to approve ordinance number 2020-1466? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard of a motion from Councilman Hampton, a second from Vice Mayor Stipp. Open for council discussion? No discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp,
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kano,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right. The second public hearing item is to consider a request to rezone 35.73 acres of Centerscape at Palm Valley Amendment Planned Area Development to Centerscape at Palm Valley 2020 PAD. Public meeting opened. I understand that this item is not yet ready to proceed, so I will continue this public hearing to our next regular meeting on June 22nd. Public hearing closed. You're looking at me.
No, Mayor, we open the public hearing. We're
Oh,
going to
so
continue
you
the
leave
public
it
hearing.
open.
Yeah, leave it open, please.
You learn something every day, or you forget something every day. All right, so it's open for that next day, okay? So be sure you tell your friends if they didn't listen to the second explanation. All right, the first item of business to consider approving the Arts and Culture FY 2021 Annual Public Art Plan. Arts and Culture Administrator Guyleen Ozlansky will present. Guyleen?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving us some time to get prepared there. We're very excited to be here with you this evening, and I'm really happy to be joined by our Chairman of our Arts and Culture Commission, Fran Fee, as well as Commissioner Aubrey Jones, who is a member of our Public Arts Subcommittee. And I'm going to turn this over to Fran to kick us off.
I'd like to start out by thanking the Mayor and Council for considering the Arts and Culture Commission as the steward of culture of art for the West Valley, and particularly for Goodyear. Our mission as a commission is to provide leadership through the arts to bring the community together, to celebrate our diverse history, beliefs, cultures, and aspirations. We strive to beautify the city, create public dialogue, advance education, and inspire civic pride. In order to help accomplish this, the commission is made up of a diverse group of individuals from all parts of the city. Our goal is to engage and support the community through art. One recent example is the transition of various projects into a virtual art platform due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Since we were unable to meet in person to judge all the entries for the Mayor Select Junior Art Program, the winners were judged via computer. In turn, this allowed everyone in the community the opportunity to see the winners of the contest online. We strongly believe that we are helping to create a sense of place which enhances the quality of life for all of our citizens. As you can see by this next slide, some of our public art projects that are highlighted for 2020 include new light pole banners, art for Firestations 181 and 186, a major art installation at the Recreation Campus, and 10 additional traffic cabinets. With our mobile museum available in the schools, we reach school children of all ages. Some of our ongoing art activities and programs are the Vision and Sound and African American Experience, fine art exhibits, and previously mentioned virtual arts. Now I'd like to introduce to Commissioner Aubrey Jones, who will give you more information about these programs.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. As mentioned by Chairman Fee, we are very excited to continue our mission to create a culture of art in Goodyear, aligned with the city's mission of becoming the hub of arts and culture in the West Valley. The Goodyear Public Art Program is one aspect of our mission with the goal of being actively engaged with our community and local artists to create art experiences in various forms and locations around the city. This effort helps to create a sense of community pride, enhances cultural and social values, and helps to beautify our city, increasing economic attractiveness and encouraging future development. The Arts and Culture Commission is working to meet the recommendations of the Goodyear 2025 General Plan by integrating public art throughout the community. We are continuing to work closely with the city manager, the economic development team, and Parks and Recreation to incorporate public art aspects into the city planning process. We expand and enrich our community pride and sense of ownership by engaging with and utilizing local artists, aspiring young artists, and resident interviews and surveys for our public art pieces. We also work to involve Goodyear local businesses to support and enhance Goodyear's economic vitality. Community engagement and resident participation in the entire arts and culture process is a prime focus. We do this through increasing social media outreach and advertising, virtual and live art experiences, calls to artists, and partnership with high school arts teachers, students, and local artist organizations and groups. Fortunately, the Commission was able to get several wonderful public art projects launched prior to COVID-19, which we are excited to share with you now. Many of you have noticed that we have brand new light pole banners proudly and beautifully displayed around the city. We had 28 local Goodyear artist submissions for consideration for this project, with 4 being selected. These artists are both seasoned professionals and emerging artists like high school student Bailey Rose. We also have 10 additional traffic cabinets that have been identified and slated for public art application. Our initial goal was to have the new traffic cabinets completed this past spring. However, due to safety concerns surrounding COVID-19 and the impact of heat during the summer months to artists and materials, we have postponed the project completion to the fall. We received 23 entries for this project, with 10 artists being selected, and we truly can't wait to see these amazing new art pieces on our local city streets. The Firestation 181 Freestanding Memorial Artwork Project is projected for installation February of 2021. Artist Joe Tyler was selected for the Firestation Art Projects in May of 2018, with his stunning work in metal and his styling really resonating with the firefighters and overall design aspects of the building. This project is very exciting as the artists work closely with our Goodyear firefighters to meet their desire to memorialize and honor fallen heroes. Additionally, Captain Jose Aguirre's own artwork and other symbolic elements important to our firefighters were included in this piece. Not only will this piece be beautiful during the day, but will also provide a soothing internal glow at night. The Firestation 181 Freestanding Memorial Artwork is projected, pardon me. The Firestation 186 Freestanding Sculpture is projected for installation in October of 2020. This piece is also being completed by artist Joe Tyler in the Estrella community. The artists and firefighters were inspired by the beautiful desert aspects in this community and created a piece that both honors our firefighters with the featured scramble, which contains a variety of tools, current and historic, of the firefighting trade, symbolizing readiness, togetherness, and preparedness. This stunning piece will also contain a lighted base that will glow from the inside at night. We are incredibly excited to continue our work on the development and selection of the public art piece for our new Civic Square. So far, we have received 169 artist submissions of their qualification and work samples for consideration. These eager artists have submitted from our local communities, other states across the nation, and even from around the world. Our goal with this project is to create a unique destination experience in which our community members and visitors are drawn to the piece and come back to enjoy it time and time again. Completion of this project will align with the overall completion of the Civic Square. Last but definitely not least, our Goodyear Recreation Campus multi-sensory kinetic art piece is projected for installation in January of 2021. This piece has been in development for 3 years and will be an exciting and unique focal point at our amazing new rec campus. Not only will this piece be stunning visually, it encourages visitor interaction with movable elements, colors that refract the sunlight during the day, and lighting elements for color at night. I hope you all are as excited as we are to see these wonderful public art pieces come to fruition in the coming months and years. And now Guyleen will present our public art project recommendations.
Thank you, Aubrey. Appreciate that. So we're moving on in the presentation. We're moving now to our working public art plan. And per the Public and Performing Arts Ordinance, the Arts and Culture Commission is asked to come before council annually to ask for approval of projects for the immediate fiscal year. They also are asked to make projections for the 5 future fiscal years as well. So for this evening, the one project that we are looking for approval on that's for fiscal year 2021 is Fire Station 188. And we're really excited about this station. This will be the 3rd new fire station in the city of Goodyear. And we are seeking a budget amount of $100,000. And at this station, what we're looking to do is have this artwork be architecturally integrated, which means we want to have the artwork actually affixed to the building. Now, a lot of this will depend on working with the designers on how that building is placed on the piece of land so that we ensure that we have great view corridors for the public. We really want to be innovative and creative and do something really unique here that gives that station its own identity. Moving on to future fiscal years, as Aubrey mentioned, we did have to postpone the installation of the artwork on traffic cabinets, but this is such a great program. We hope to continue this in future fiscal years, and we'll be coming back to council in fiscal year 2022 to talk about potentially adding more artwork to traffic cabinets around our city. In fiscal year 2023, the Arts Commission is recommending a project at Bullard Wash Park, and I'm really excited about this project because of Civic Square coming. This Bullard Wash Park is an amazing park, and with Civic Square, it's going to create this accessibility to the park that we haven't had up to this point. And this will be a great opportunity to put artwork in the park. We are proposing to do 6 sculptural panels that really capitalize on the fact that this is a linear park because they can be installed along a pathway that will really encourage people to travel throughout the park. And with having multiple panels, it's really about storytelling at this time. This could even potentially be something historical. It could be a historical timeline that we work on. They are asking for a budget level of $250,000 for this project, and it would really instill civic pride and be a great location for it. The final project on our plan is in fiscal year 2024, and it's a Western Avenue Gateway project. The Arts Commissioners are recommending an archway that would go over Western Avenue, be located near Parmentier Park, near the crosswalk, and the budget level on that is $380,000. During our budget meetings, we did receive a couple comments from council members, and tonight is the night that we can further that discussion, and we're eager to hear council's comments and take their guidance on this project. So along with, as I said, in the ordinance, we are to make recommendations for the next 5 years. I wanted to share also some of the other projects the commissioners are considering, because when they look at public art, they do consider things such as looking at the city in its entirety and where public art is located, and making sure we're putting projects, in areas where public is at. Additionally, they like to really engage with the community as well as create cultural tourism. So some of these projects that they're considering in the future would be looking at Goodyear Community Park and the stage area there, creating an artistic created shade element or an iconic piece that really is eye-catching when you enter into Goodyear Community Park. Looking at our Parc de Paz in our North Subdivision and wanting to do a project that's really community-led there, with community members create the artwork. And it really becomes about the process at this point, and the final product is a reminder of what that process was. Additionally, we're exploring South Goodyear and opportunities there, whether it's right-of-way installations or elevated artworks, as well as still exploring the path of doing a destination public artwork that may be off the beaten path to appeal to cultural tourists. The final piece of our presentation tonight is a little off from public art, but the Arts Commission really looks at the arts holistically for the city of Goodyear and how we appeal to our residents and visitors. And so we wanted to share some of the programming opportunities that they're exploring for the future. One of these would be a Shakespeare in the Park. Again, Bullard Wash Park has this wonderful amenity there. It has this wonderful amphitheater that would be an ideal location for this type of program. Not only do we want to bring a new performance to our city, we'd like to run it as a community theater because we'd love to see Goodyear residents actually performing on the stage as well. Another one is we have a partnership with Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation, and we'd really like to work with them to do a new music series called Goodyear Rocks, to create a platform for young, emerging youth musicians to be able to perform in our city. We have a holiday variety concert that we are proposing. We would like to work with our local high schools to use the Performing Arts Center and to have a nice program where we invite our West Valley Performing Arts groups, our choral groups, our symphony, our dancers, our theater groups, and bring them all together for a seated concert where you can get dressed up and go with your family and enjoy a nice holiday performance. Another program that we're very excited about is our Historic Goodyear Mural program. We have been working with Catitude Arts for 5 years now, and they run the Follow Your Art Junior program every summer, which is 14 artists that are looking to go into the arts as a career. A spinoff from this is Mural Mentoring. Bonnie Lewis, a Goodyear resident and professional artist, has been working with teens. They've painted our Goodyear skate park mural as well as a traffic cabinet in our city. And their next adventure is going to be doing murals in historic Goodyear. And the first mural they would like to create is to paint panels that would be installed in Parcel Park. We'd like to affix them to the chain link fence that covers the well site. Be a great way to illustrate our vibrant history and beautify that area of the park. The final program on here is part of our Art in the Park series. It would be Art in the Park After Dark. And this is called Poetry Illuminated. We do a really great job. We have great performing arts and visual arts. We want to start exploring and working with our creative writers in our community, and we want to invite Goodyear residents to create original poems that then would be illuminated onto the sidewalk in the park at nighttime, so you could stroll through and enjoy the words that they've written and shared. These programs, we do not have the budget for these, but these will come up in the future for supplemental requests and other funding opportunities as we explore bringing these programming opportunities online. So the Arts and Culture Commission has big plans for the future. Goodyear has become a hub for the arts in the West Valley. You know, as all of you are aware, our arts commissioners are extremely active, and they're very passionate about the arts and how they can use arts as a tool to really strengthen sense of community and really enhance our quality of life in our city. And they're just doing a great job with it. So with that, we are here seeking council's approval of the recommended fiscal year 2021 annual public art plan. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Nice presentation. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? But you're going to come down. You can't speak yet. Sorry. So I need a motion, a second, to approve FY 2021 annual public art plan as recommended by the Arts and Culture Commission. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Kano and a second from Councilman Stipp. Open now. Councilman Basilio, you may talk.
Even though I'm disappointed on your traffic cabinets, because that's something I'm very proud about. So you're going to be carrying it over from this budget year, because it's going to end up in the fall. The 10 that you've identified, do you have the actual designs set in that yet from the artist?
Mayor, Councilmember Pizzillo, yes, the artists have already created the designs. They've worked with the Arts Commission on that. We are ready to go. We just need to get the weather to the right place to where we can get them out there to be able to actually apply the artwork to the cabinets.
And I understand that. Is it possibility to see those 10 designs?
Yes,
I would love to see those 10 designs that you've, if they're already done and you know what you're going to be using on it. Because I think it really adds a lot to our city. I'm a little prejudiced because my favorite one is the one at the park that we have there next to the fire station. The one with the little girl and the butterfly. That's my favorite, okay? But again, I think it really adds to the city, and especially with the artists, using local artists on that. The other comment has to do with the School of Rock. You know, I've seen them perform at several events. Alice Cooper's school does them proud by the kids that are coming out of that. And I would really look forward to you being able to use those kids at some of our events.
Thank you.
Next, Councilman Lauritano.
First of all, I want to thank you and your whole commission, and you just do an excellent work. I have to agree with Joe. One of my favorite things, and it literally, when I'm driving to work or driving somewhere and I see those cabinets, it's just like, oh, they're so pretty. I mean, it really does lighten your day. So those are great. I agree with everything. I love what you've done at the fire stations. I love the Roadrunner. I told you that up at Estrella. I think that really does fit in. For your programming opportunities, I would love to see the Goodyear Rocks and the Shakespeare in the Park, those type of things, if we could move those up. Because I think that is something, especially once we get past COVID, people are really going to want to go outside together and enjoy these experiences together as families and as groups that we haven't been able to do. So if there's some way we could move those up and not make them so far in the future, I would love that. I think that's a great idea, and especially with the opening of the city square down there. The only question I have that I'm kind of iffy on, and it's not that it's a bad idea, but maybe because it's so far out, that'll give time to figure out exactly how to do it, is that archway, because we just are selling those buildings, and I know, and I guess for me, that the whole thing is, I don't know if it's quite ready yet until we know exactly with the museum, if maybe that will give some idea to how the art should look. But that may not be a problem because it's not till 2024. So I don't have a problem with it. I just don't know if we want to nail down exactly what it is till we kind of know how that corner is going to, it's really going to brighten up once we sell those buildings and see who goes in there and something. So that would be my only comment, but great plan, and I do fully support it, and hopefully we can move some stuff up. I don't know if we have some other funding to do that somehow, but I would love to. Thank you. And one more thing. Thank you all for putting everything online and reaching out to our community, because I know it was very hard for people who wanted to enjoy things, and you and the Parks Department just stepped it up. So thank you.
Councilman Kano?
Well, I also want to give a great big thanks to you. Hey, Fran, I can see you around the corner. You and the entire commission, and I did want to lead off with Councilman Loretano's comment about how you pivoted so well in the face of having to shut down most of our activities and made so many things virtual and online, and including chalk art in the park, and just really pushed out a lot of content, a lot of things out in the community. And so very, very creative. I like how you honor the history of our region when you're planning, but you're also very forward-looking, because that's important. It's sort of both and are really critical. Where did we come from, but where are we going? And you guys are really visionary, and I think that's important. I do like seeing the increase of the amount for public art at the fire stations. I think we found that 40,000 was too limiting, that you couldn't do the architectural interest things, and so you get these standalone statues, which have their value, but I think having that bigger vision would really well serve the new fire stations and the communities they serve. So I really like that. I know we have a huge crowd that's missing the hot coffees. That's been just such a popular thing. And so looking forward to when we are able to get back to gathering in. I also want to say I appreciate how you recognize that the role the arts play, public art plays with economic development and community vitality. You're not a standalone organization. You really are integrated into the vision and in the planning in the city. So thank you for the work that you've done. I also wanted to thank Councilman Pizzillo for, even when I was on the commission and he was advocating then for the traffic cabinets, and you really built a legacy. So well done.
Next. Any other conversation? Vice Mayor?
Thanks for the presentation. Thank you for the work that you guys are doing. It's always exciting to see the different things that come up year after year. I've got kind of a generic question about the intent tonight. The intent tonight is for the 2021 budget, but you have presented a number of projects that go forward into 2024. Approving this plan tonight, does that automatically approve those projects going forward?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Stipp, that's a great question. So we come back to you each year with the projects. And so the way the ordinance is written, we really are just seeking approval for the art projects that are in the immediate fiscal year, so it's for 2021. The rest of the projects are just projections that we're making so that we can kind of have this process now and get this feedback so that we can make adjustments as we need to for your future fiscal years.
Okay, so I'm going to recap what I just heard, make sure that I'm understanding it. So the only thing you're really asking for, quote unquote, tonight is approval for the public art for Fire Station 188.
This is correct.
Okay. Moving on. I also agree with Councilmember Loretano about these what I'm going to refer to as cultural events as opposed to art events. Things that were in the last slide, the Shakespeare, some of that other. I think those may have a greater impact on the community now as opposed to later. That I realize we're only approving one piece of public art, and it's for our public facility, but I think getting those cultural events into the community raise the awareness. As much as I appreciate, and I think everybody does, seeing the banners and whatnot, having that event is the thing that I think sparks some of the, from the non-art guy, that's what I'm telling you. From my perspective, that's where it's coming from. So just to give that some consideration. And then finally, since you brought up our concerns during the budget discussion, I have great concerns about the cost and the project of the archway. And I mentioned it that night. It didn't really dawn on me until I read the report, the presentation for tonight about it didn't resonate that we really don't have any public art in South Goodyear. I mean, it didn't even dawn on me until I read it. And I think if we're gonna look at a $400,000 investment in art, that perhaps we need to move to start getting some of those pieces elsewhere, even if that means partnering with Newland and their, I think it's called the Star Center or whatever that. Star Point, I'm going to say the twisted thing that goes up, but yeah.
Stargazer.
Yeah, what this, yeah. Yeah, my inner geek is going to come out real quick, so I'm going to stop right there. Anyway, but I think we've got some partnership opportunities with Newland and the Estrella community. Personally, in that out year, and I think that was 2024 or something, that may be a good opportunity for us to look to do something down there in the southern part of the city, as opposed to trying to do yet another project along Western someone mentioned it, until we really know what it's going to look like and what it's going to turn into. We don't want to neglect it, and I think we've done something at Palmentier Park, we've done at Parker de Paz, so we're not ignoring that section, but I think when it comes to a sizable project like that, perhaps looking elsewhere to get it started there and then return to Western Avenue may be a better strategy. That's just my perspective. And we've had an email exchange, Guyleen and I, but I'm looking forward to an answer. Nathan's smiling back there, how to spend my money in the last 3 weeks of the month to get a public art project going. So looking forward to that. Thank you so much for all your work.
Yes, Councilman Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I too am concerned about the archway over Western. I don't right now feel it is appropriate use of our city funds to do that until we know specifically what we're going to do with that area. So perhaps the Art Commission could think of something else. Well, maybe do it in another area than there. I just don't, we don't know what we're even doing back there yet. So to put this beautiful archway, and I'm sure it'll be beautiful, I don't know that we can justify it, because there's not a lot of people that will see it. And as long as we're not, if we're voting on your budget tonight and that does not include that, then I'm in favor of your budget. However, that being said, I'm excited to see some of these projects. I really like you having public art that people can touch and use and sit on or climb on, or something that we just don't have to look at it. And I just think if the public is able to do that, they own it because it's their art as well. And I just encourage you to continue to do that, not only in our parks, but anytime we're thinking of putting something. I know the beautiful sculpture and everything we're doing at all fire stations, they're lovely, but we don't have a lot of public that goes to the fire stations, seriously. And we may drive by it and see it, but we may not. So that would not necessarily be appropriate for touchy and feely and climb all over it type of art. But in other areas where the public is, it would be nice to have that. And also, I would like to encourage you for the amphitheater. Once we do have parking, which we do not have now, it is too difficult to get to that amphitheater unless you park in front of Cal Ranch and carry all your stuff through between the buildings or out at the street. It's just not convenient. But honestly, once we get our city hall built and a parking lot built, I'm sure that's going to be a wonderful gathering place for us, and it will be used. I think, I do recall one time we used it years ago for something, and it just wasn't worth it. It was so much effort to carry everything in, and we just decided we wouldn't do that again unless we could have an amphitheater where we could park by and bring our amplifiers and our music and our horns and everything. So I'm excited that you're looking at that as well. So in fact, that whole Bullard Wash will be open once there's a parking lot there. And I expect to see all of our residents using it from one end to the other. And you may want to put a piece of art there, more than just the murals. I mean, you may want to do something really creative there. Thank you. You're welcome.
Next, Councilman Hampton.
Yeah, I also agree. Thank you so much for all the hard work. I know it's, probably hard to figure out all the best uses for the dollars that we're allocating. So I appreciate your creativity and just creating these different ideas. So I like all of them. I guess to everybody else's point, I know we're only approving 2021, so I'm okay leaving the arch on there out to 2024, because I know every year we'll be able to reassess and change and things. I'd like to see that more art in the southern part of the city as well. And really the only cultural place we have is along Western Avenue, even though we have such a small section of that. But to everybody's point, we don't know what's going to be down there yet and where to put it, where to put the arch. So, but I like the idea of an arch somewhere in the city, maybe a couple arches in the city. But I do also like the idea of creating art like in the geographic center of Goodyear. I like the idea of the painted rocks and having something unique and a surprise and a destination somewhere in Goodyear as well. And just things that are built in to our everyday lives, of like traffic cabinets and the signs on the poles and the lights and just all that kind of artwork. I think it's great too. So I also like bringing forward some of these Shakespeare in the Park, Goodyear Rocks, the variety concerts. I don't know if, it seemed like a lot of people are interested in doing that as well. I don't know if we can approve that tonight or if that's something we need to have a separate motion for. But I know they're only really asking for $100,000
What part
tonight.
you're talking about?
Adding on the budget, if we're approving only $100,000 tonight, but it seemed like a few of us were wanting to pull up. I don't know if they're ready for it, but the $15,000, $12,000, and $10,000 projects, the programming opportunities. So I don't know if that's something we do now or if we just wait for supplements in the future. So, but that's a general question. I don't know if anybody has an answer for that.
Yeah, well, let's ask the lawyer and see where we are on that.
I am, excuse me, Mayor, I'm looking at the notice to make sure that it's something we could do, but it may need a couple minutes on
Yes,
that.
thank you. Take your time.
Okay. But yeah, I do appreciate your creativity. I think it adds a lot of culture to the community. I think it'd be great for one day to have a community arts center in Goodyear in the future, or I think arts are just valuable to the community. It really ties everything together and just unites us and just makes it more positive a place to live. So thank you so much.
I think all the council has spoken. Yes, Joe, you have something else?
I guess waiting to hear back from the city attorney, but I also, if it was possible, once this virus thing clears up or whatever, I agree with Councilmember Loretana and the others that if you could get Goodyear Rocks and you could get Shakespeare in the Park up a little earlier, for people, because they're going to be all pent up from being locked up inside. If they can get out and enjoy some of that in this upcoming fiscal year, I think there's value in that.
Yes, Bill?
Park and Rec too.
this is going to be a shocking statement for me, but the money part is easy. I think it's the staff capacity to get it done. So we may say, we want this, and you can say, I can do this. So before we get all excited about what you can and can't do, I think as we get ready to move forward, we need to hear from you. We go, we want 10, and you go, I can do 2. So what's the answer to that?
And that's a great way to look at it. I believe capacity-wise that we could move forward in next fiscal year to make those events happen for you. We have to explore the strategies and how that goes about to put them together. We have to wait till we actually can gather together again. So, we have a lot of things in flux at this time, but capacity-wise, yes, we could do it. But there has to be some exploration and getting the right parties in place and making sure that we can go forward with gathering. So, but thank you, everyone, for the comments on that.
Can I say something before that? Because then you're going to say something we have to probably add to?
I was just going to talk about the funding piece of it.
Yes, okay, so let me just express it. Thank you. I'm excited by some of the great art you're going to put up. I like what you're doing at the fire stations. And yes, Bill, I can't take shock, so just, don't do that all the time, okay? People love the cabinets. I love the creativity. I love some modern in there. I love things that people go, what? And then they have to go and investigate it. And I think it raises the culture and the education for our young people. All right, it gives them the opportunity to see life in a different form. So I'm 100% behind you. So I think we have to go to the city manager on a question that was given tonight. Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. With regard to funding, should Council approve the art plan as presented tonight? It does include these components, and after hearing from Council, we can get together and bring it back as an item for Council's consideration as far as funding goes.
Okay.
As you might recall, we set aside some special contingency dollars, and this could come back.
So
through
we
that
don't
purpose.
change anything in this part? Okay,
Correct.
good. Everybody got that? Bill, you're looking perplexed, or we got, okay, good. I think the discussion is finished, so let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, and the ayes have it. Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. And do
The next item on business is number 13, to consider approving the Workers' Compensation Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool. Human Resources Director Lyman Lockett presenting. Lyman?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm here to bring forward a recommendation to adopt resolution number 2020-2059, transitioning the city's workers' compensation coverage to Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool, otherwise known as AMRRP, and approve the associated expenditures for fiscal 21. Earlier this year, we embarked on an effort to evaluate all available options for our workers' compensation coverage for the city. This exercise included looking at self-funded or self-insured coverage options. And although self-insured models are a viable option for many cities, our assessment indicated that it wasn't prudent to move in this direction at this time. Our assessment refocuses on looking at fully insured coverage models. We subsequently launched an RFP in April of this year. Just before launching our RFP, our current provider, CopperPoint, announced that they would be exiting the workers' compensation market in Arizona. The RFP process yielded 2 bids. And in addition, and as a current member of AMRRP for our property and casualty insurance, we received a bid proposal from them. The current the 2 bids received from the RFP process unfortunately did not meet our criteria. They were from brokerage firms and fell short of what we were looking for from a fully insured provider. We have, however, found both what we feel is a viable and well-suited option for a workers' compensation in AMRRP. AMRRP is a municipal governed risk pool dedicated solely to cover the risk and management solutions for Arizona cities and towns. AMRRP provides coverage for 76 cities and towns and cover almost 12,000 workers throughout the state of Arizona. So they are in our wheelhouse with regard to municipal government. They also have some innovative tools that we're excited about that we think will help our employees, one of which is Triage Now, which is a 24/7 telephonic nurse triage service for injured employees. This is both an intake and immediate care platform for our employees. From a fiscal impact perspective, we do not anticipate any major changes in the projected workers' compensation coverage budget for 2021, fiscal year 2021. The estimated premium and deductible of $950,000 is expected to be similar in cost to that we were anticipating from Copper Point had they not left the market. This includes a rate reduction due to our workers' compensation experience rating, resulting in a savings of about $100,000 over last year. We anticipate a seamless transition with the following plan. Coordinating with our on-site wellness center is already underway, having some initial discussions there. All existing claims will continue to be handled by Copper Point through the life of the claim. Initial meetings have also been held with regard to stakeholder needs to give them an understanding of AMRRP, what their offerings are, and our tentative rollout plan. These stakeholders included union members who were involved in the RFP process, fire and PD health and safety officers, and members of our safety committee. We are planning on conducting employee training the last 2 weeks of June. And if approved, the AMRRP processes will go into effect July 1, 2020. We recommend that council adopt the resolution and approve the associated expenditures. And this ends my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Does anyone in the audience want to speak? Will the city clerk please read resolution number 2020-2059 by title only, please?
Adopt resolution number 2020-2059, approving the city's workers' compensation coverage to be administered through the Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, a second, to approve resolution number 2020-2059? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard Vice Mayor make the motion, and I heard Councilman Pizzillo make the second. Open for council discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
I appreciate all the effort in this. We weren't quite sure where this was going after Copper, Point had pulled out. My question to you, since they have pulled out, as far as those that are not self-insured, is the majority of those cities going to end up going into this pool?
Many are. We know that Flagstaff, there are a few that are going self-funded. We're right at that point of decision. However, we're just not there yet. So there are some that are, they're picking up. In fact, that 12,000 number, that's expected to rise just above 12,000 with those that are coming over to the pool. So,
yeah, I appreciate the decision on going into the pool, only because we don't know where we're going with this yet. I don't think the legislature has addressed the issue that they were going to address as far as when it comes to the cancer issue with firefighters. So it would be nice to just to get a feeling where some of these claims are going to be coming, not being self-insured, to take that type of hit initially till we figure out where we're kind of going with it. So, yeah, I agree with the efforts to put us in this pool.
Yes, Councilman Loretano.
I agree. Thank you for all your hard work, because there wasn't a lot to choose from. It sounds like it's pretty much a very empty market right now. My question is, with Copper Point exiting, they're going to cover the claims that they know about, but what if there's a claim that could have arisen partially before we got the new insurer, partially after? Does the new insurer the risk pool just take the whole claim then?
If it's a claim that's reopened based on a prior entry, Copper Point would continue to manage that claim. If it's a new injury, then AMRRP would then take over.
Okay, because my question was like with some of these cancer claims, we're not sure when they started, it's a history, so those would be with the risk
Yeah,
pool.
in general, those would be based on the exposure, the time of exposure. So if it happened under Copper Point, deemed to have happened under Copper Point would handle those claims.
Okay, I just want to make sure we don't have like a donut hole there for anybody to fall through or anything.
Yeah, it's a little, time of exposure is critical. Where the claim lands obviously would have to be looked at. But generally, if it is something that would have happened prior to AMRRP taking over, Copper Point would own that claim.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Anybody else?
Mayor.
No. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, Lyman, thank you for this. Other than those that are currently under or have an open claim currently, which Copper Point is managing, this ends our relationship with Copper Point effectively.
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I should add that we will continue to be in contact with Copper Point to help manage those claims as they run out. So we'll still have that relationship. However, our financial ties with Copper Point would cease July 1 or June 30th.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kano,
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you for the discussion. We're on 14, on business is to consider approving the Cdbg entitlement. Grants and Neighborhood Services Supervisor Christian Panitas Q. She's not, oh, good. I don't have to worry about that, do I? Please announce yourself.
Hi, I'm Christina Panatescu, Grants and Neighborhood Services Supervisor for the City of Goodyear.
Yeah, I wanted people to know you actually have that last name and they're familiar with you, so thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't see the presentation. Oh, yep. Sorry, the mouse. Thank you. Thank you. Jeannie in the back. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here to follow up on a business item from a work session a few weeks ago regarding the city's opportunity to pursue Cdbg entitlement status. So this evening I'll be reviewing what Cdbg is, the advantages of entitlement, and the financial impact on the city. Looking to you for action. As a reminder, and for the benefit of the public, Cdbg is a HUD federal grant opportunity designed to provide decent housing, suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunities primarily to low and moderate income individuals. Currently, the City of Goodyear participates as a part of the urban county, and we compete for an allocation against cities like Buckeye, El Mirage, Gila Bend, Queen Creek, Tolleson, Youngtown, and unincorporated Maricopa County. We have participation on the CDAC committee that reviews the applications and makes recommendations for funding levels to the County Board of Supervisors. Visually, this is what the current state looks like. The HUD allocation goes to Maricopa County, who is responsible for a great deal of administrative duties such as developing a 5-year consolidated plan, an annual action plan, and all associated reporting and environmental reviews, labor compliance, etc. They have decided to use the CDAC group to review the applications and sometimes make subawards to entities like Goodyear, who then deliver eligible projects and programs. They are responsible for auditing the city of Goodyear, and they are audited by HUD. As an entitlement community, what changes is that the direct allocation goes directly to the city of Goodyear, and our council gets to establish, based on our 5-year consolidated plan and annual action plan, which eligible projects to use the funds for. We will then also be audited directly by HUD. So the advantages are that we are guaranteed annual funding based on the federal budget, and that up to 20% of that allocation can be used for administrative costs. It gives us more flexibility in the types of projects we prioritize and opens the door to Section 108 loan programs. The disadvantages would be there is intensive startup effort, and that ultimately we foresee needing dedicated staff to administer the program. Our current allocation, given the administrative cap, would not cover the FTE anticipated if we were to have to fund that now. So it's possible that in the future, a subsidy from the general fund might be needed. To review, the city will be having to do a 5-year consolidated plan, and then can choose projects that meet the national objectives and are relevant to the 5-year plan to spend our allocation. Using the example of a $400,000 allocation, we could spend up to $80,000 on administrative costs, and that would leave $320,000 available for eligible programs and projects. At least 70% of the funds spent on projects needs to benefit low mod income individuals, and the maximum of 15% can be spent on direct services. Our next steps, if we were to move forward with entitlement, are to begin working on a 5-year consolidated plan that will require us to look closely at affordable housing, homelessness, impediments to fair housing, and the community development needs and priorities for our community. We'll also, as a result of those efforts, come up with an annual action plan and develop policies and procedures for how to implement the Cdbg program. We estimate this to cost $50,000 with the use of a consultant to assist us, and should we decide to recoup those costs from the CDB allocations, it would be an allowable expense. But it would eat into the 20%. So today we are looking to you to authorize the city manager to take the necessary actions to obtain CDBG entitlement status for the city.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Then I need a motion and a second to authorize the city manager to take necessary actions to obtain the CDBG entitlement status for the city. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Hampton and a second from Vice Mayor Stiff. Conversation, Council. Who would like to start?
I have a question.
Councilman Campbell.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Is the $400,000 every year?
So that was just a round number
Whatever the round number is it just one allocation every year or one allocation that we have to spend for the 5-year plan?
One per year.
One per year, okay. What happens to the project that was approved by the current CDBG for our lights in North Subdivision? Does that still go through them, even though we're trying now to pull out of it?
Yes, we were already allocated those funds. That's from this current fiscal year that we're entering into. And we're still a part of the urban county until June of
June of next year?
2021.
Oh, 2021, okay, great. So so we won't get the money and then until 2021?
We won't get the money from HUD
Yes.
until it would probably show up closer to 2022.
Oh,
So it-
2022, okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Vice Mayor Stipp?
No, I don't have a question. I just want to reiterate, I think this is the right time, the right point for us to move forward. I'm excited about the potential for the future of what we can do as opposed to what we've been limited by. I think the future becomes a little brighter for us, and the ability to control our own destiny makes a lot more sense, regardless of the lifespan of this CBDG program. We never know year after year, but I appreciate the work, I appreciate the information, and that we're finally getting it to a conclusion, so thanks.
Any other? Yes, Councilman Hampton?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think having that consistency year after year, we can plan a little better. We don't have to negotiate or go through a metric system to try to get our allotment. It's guaranteed every single year. And now that it makes sense mathematically that we actually can do it, and we're not going to need to hire a full-time person for at least a couple of years, it sounds like, that I think now is probably the better time. I know when I first got on it, I didn't know why, because we're the biggest city by far at that meeting. So I think it's, I was surprised we were even on it compared, we're not Wickenburg, we're not Guadalupe, we're not Youngtown. So taking our share, being more consistent, and then being able to do a lot more neat projects with that consistent money in the areas that we can, I think is good. So, and it can use it for other things too. I mean, economic development and also the housing, and there's a lot of things we can do. So I think it's a good move. Thank you.
Any other comments? I have to agree with you. We've had needs and haven't been able to even look at them. And I can see in the future that maybe some things will be done a little faster. I think it's a crowd pleaser for the historical Goodyear, and they like things to make them proud of too. And they are, as you say, our only historical area, and so make the most of what you have, and I think this will help it. So thanks a great deal. All right, let's vote for it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a little late one, okay. She got the count? You're fine, okay. So the last item on business to consider adopting the FY 2021 tentative budget. Finance manager and budget researcher, Lori Wickenroth, presenting. Lori?
Thank you. See if I can maneuver this thing around, if I can find my mouse on the screen. All right. So we are in the first of the three kind of formal steps of adopting the budget and for FY21. So what I'll do is I'll kind of go through, I was here a couple weeks ago talking to you about the city manager's budget. As a result of some of the information that we heard from you at that session, we've made some changes, and then we've identified some other changes. So the first thing I'll do is just kind of walk you through what those changes are, both in terms of the expenditures and the resources that are involved. And then we'll just give you a high-level overview of the budget in terms of kind of the resources that are going into the budget and how they're being spent. And I'll talk again a little bit about the assumptions that we use to prepare the revenue estimates that support this budget that's kind of a little uncertain. So in terms of the changes, we presented you a $589.8 million budget at the city manager's budget. It's now at $599.4 million, so just under $600,000. Kind of walk through how we got from that point, from where we were to where we are now. I talked to you verbally at the city manager's budget presentation about the need to include the operating cost to open the 2 fire stations that are in design and construction now and will open next year. So we have added $192,400 to operate the Fire Station 181, which will open in the spring, and Fire Station 186, which will open in the winter. So those are the operating costs to get them through the balance of, for a partial year in terms of next year. And in both those stations, the staff are already funded, so this is just the things like the utilities and building maintenance type expenses. The court sought and received approval from restricted funding sources to continue 2 temporary positions using 2 different court funding sources. So those 2 are being added, temporary, a one-time funded supervisor and a one-time funded specialist position. Then the CDBG item you just saw, that includes, we identified a $50,000 cost to do some of those, prepare those plans and do some of that initial work to be prepared to be a direct recipient. So we've added that to this budget. We did identify a few changes to traffic signals. There are 2 traffic signals planned on Camelback Road. We talked a little bit before about some of the timing involved in coming up with agreements with the parties that are involved. And so as we were having those conversations, we re-looked at those signals and the realistic timeline, and both of their construction has been moved into FY22. And then the 3rd traffic signal, the one at Estrella Foothills at the high school, that one's going to be slightly more expensive than we initially planned, less than a $20,000 increase in that project. We also had a little bit of conversation about the Scada control room. I think there was a question about it at the manager's presentation, and I think Dan Kotterman shared that we were looking at other alternatives. They are looking to incorporate the Scada control room into the surface water facilities. So we've removed the project that was planned to relocate those Scada facilities to some other location, and we believe we can absorb the cost of that that project within the current surface water project budget. So that's a savings to the water department of about $760,000. We also had a project included to repair or better stabilize a retaining wall at the ballpark. That was a $1.6 million project. As we've been moving forward with the current projects that are going on in terms of safety improvements at the facility, and we also got some new cost estimates from a different vendor or contractor, and we are able to absorb that wall stabilization project into the budget that was provided this year for the other safety improvements. So we freed up that $1.6 million in essentially general funds. It's a ballpark thing, but as you know, we transfer general funds to support the ballparks fund. And then we had some carryover adjustments, part of which are associated with that wall project, and just a couple other projects we identified that needed to carry over as we continue to fine-tune things. And then we just found a couple of errors. We included too much money on the surface water project, about $9,000, and then there was a formula error in one of the budget spreadsheets, so those netted to about a $2,500 change in the budget. And then finally, there's a real big number at the bottom. There's $11 million, almost $12 million has been added to the special general fund contingency. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, how we were able to do that in the next slide. But essentially, that's about a $9.6 million increase in the budget. So that increase in that general fund special contingency, it happens from the net of some of those changes, such as the ballpark and other items. But the bulk of it is coming from the fact that we have been notified that are in the process of receiving just shy of $10 million from the state of Arizona from the CARES Act fund. Those resources are reimbursing us for our public safety salary and benefit expenses from March into June. We should expend all of those resources this year. That means that there's $10 million in general funds, that more in the ending balance coming from FY20 than we had presented in the manager's budget. So that is the major contributor to that nearly $12 million. And then in addition, if you remember a couple years ago, we did have a police asset management fund, and other than a radio project that comes up every 10 to 15 years, it was pretty much consistently funded year after year. So we made a change to their base budget to put those basic replacements into their base budget. And then we finished out the radio project that was planned with that asset management fund. That project's complete, it's been fully paid for, so we also are now closing out that police asset management fund and returning those resources to the general fund. So that added another $200,000 in additional resources when we finish this year than we planned in the manager's budget. So that adds a total of $10.2 million to the beginning general fund balance for FY21. Some other changes. We have a no dollar amount change based on some of the conversation that we heard when we presented the city manager's budget, and that is that the non-represented salary and increase will be a 2.5% ongoing increase. If you'll recall, we had initially presented a 2.5% one-time lump sum in July. And as we talked about at the manager's budget presentation, the intent would be to revisit the non-compensated or the non-represented salary and benefit package later in the year once the economic environment has stabilized a little bit more. I also shared verbally at the presentation of the manager's budget that we had one extra position listed in the recreation campus project. So this just reflects, it's showing you that we've removed that position. So we're now adding 40.2 positions to the city's position count, bringing our total position count to 706.2 full-time equivalent positions. That's the changes. I don't know if you want to pause for if there's, or shall I keep going? Or
No, you can pause if they want, or you can keep
Okay.
going.
All right. I don't know if there's any questions about the changes or.
Anybody have any questions at the first portion? Councilman Zillow?
On that $10 million that we're getting from the CARES Act, is there something you're going to be coming back to council at some point in time on how that's going to be allocated?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Pizzillo. What will happen is it's being added to the general fund special contingency, and we've already committed that those dollars will be allocated by council through the year. So we will come back to council with, either a work session to get your ideas on those dollars, but we certainly already had some money set aside for the additional employee staff raises if the economy recovered, but also the supplementals that had been submitted, but because of the COVID, we've not yet discussed. So we do anticipate future work sessions with council to talk about how to allocate those dollars, but they are general fund dollars one time for your consideration.
Thank you.
And there
another quick question on the expense side. Has the ballpark reconciliation been completed to the point where, remember we had that loan dealing with the Indians? I forget, it was 1 million or whatever it was, debt service year. I'm just throwing out numbers. I don't know if that's the exact number. And if there was any shortfall, which I suspect there would be since the season was cut, then we would have billed the Indians for that difference. Has that happened yet? And if so, have we gotten that money?
We have completed the reconciliation. We don't actually bill them until the payment is due. So we will bill them in as those two payments come. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the dollar amount, but they are aware and agree with the reconciliation of the amounts that they owe.
All right, so when that actual debt service payment comes, that's when you bill them, and that's when we get the money, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Loretano?
And I'm not sure if this was a question. We talked about adding those arts issues, the Shakespeare, the other. Is this where we do that, or is that just going to come back later?
So because the tentative agenda is setting the cap for the budget, we are able to come back through the supplemental process, and we'd be looking to utilize that special fund, the special contingency. That's correct.
All righty.
All right, she's ready to proceed.
All
All the
right.
questions asked? Okay.
All righty. So now I just want to do a quick overview of the budget that you're approving today. So again, it's $599.4 million. Resources have not changed other than the $10.2 million increase in the beginning balance. That's resulting from the savings that are occurring this year. So basically, you would see that in that general fund balance, that kind of pale pink part of the pie is now bigger, so it changes all the percentages, but essentially that's what's happening, plus the effect of those carryover revisions. I know it will eventually pick it up. There we go. On the general fund, again, that's where the majority of that $10.2 million, again, is reflected here in a fund balance increase. So the general fund, we have almost $217 million in general fund resources to allocate in the budget. And so then what I thought I'd do is just remind you how we got to the revenues associated with those resources. Again, you'll recall kind of our first major revenue loss was when the Major League Baseball canceled spring training, and we lost about $900,000 in revenue. And that we only assume that revenue loss is occurring in FY20, so we're assuming FY21's revenue will be back similar to a normal spring training season. Also mentioned to you that we had the good news that we're receiving as to revenue in FY20. Earlier in the year, we thought it would be a larger amount, but we still believe we're going to receive about $1 million this year. And then ASTA also gave us a revenue estimate for next year that we're continuing to move forward with, which is about $900,000. Sales taxes is obviously the area where we think we are most significantly impacted, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward here. And then, of course, we also adjusted the HERF revenues because those are primarily received from people buying gallons of gas and driving places. So in terms of the sales tax estimates, just a quick reminder, we assume the deepest losses in the hotel, motel, and amusement areas, the things like going to the movies, and as deep as only receiving about 25% of what we've received in similar months in the prior year. We also assume losses in restaurant and bars. I think the deepest loss we assume would be that we would only have about 50% of last April's revenue in this April. We did assume a moderate decline in the retail, dropping down to 80 to 90% of what we collected in the prior years. And just as a reminder, we are benefiting from the change in the tax laws that does allow us to receive sales taxes on those internet transactions. As I mentioned before, it won't be a one-for-one. If somebody would have bought something at a brick and mortar and they buy it online, we may not necessarily get that revenue. For example, a company has to do $100,000 in business in the state before they become subject to that law. So, but it certainly is we are certainly seeing an increase in that particular part of the sales tax stream. And then we assumed a spike in the food for home consumption in March, and we've kept those estimates up at about 115% of prior year just based on what we were experiencing previously.
It's the toilet paper.
Oops, I think I skipped one now. Our assumptions were that April would be the bottom of would be the deepest of our losses. And then we still assume that we'd have larger losses in May and June, and then we would improve steadily throughout 21 as as the economy recovers, hopefully. And then obviously later next year, we assume a little bit higher growth because the growth rates would be so low this year. And I think I have. So this is information for you on the March results. So the March results were, we collected about 1.2 more in general fund revenue, sales taxes than we had planned in the estimates we showed you. Of that, 860,000 of it came from non-construction activities. Retail did much better than we anticipated, almost 600,000 more in that 1 month than we had planned. So our estimates have so far been similar to what we practiced, which is they were conservative. In terms of April, we don't have a closed month yet, but I can share with you that April is also looking good, not quite as much better in the non-construction areas, but construction sales tax looks like it's going to be about 1.6 to 1.7 million more in general fund revenue than we anticipated for that month. The rest of the retail is netting around 500,000, around 50,000 more for the non-food for home consumption element of it. We hope that we will have the closed month next Monday and be able to prepare the April information. But so far, the revenues are holding, so it's a good news as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I do have the next two slides you do not have in the materials you've received. We just got this information late last week. What this is, and I'll kind of walk you through, it's kind of a lot of fine print on here because this is from an article by the Rose Law Group reporter, and they're using information from the J.P. Morgan Chase Institute. And what this is showing you, the city, so the lighter bars that are above the line are the, let me look at mine so I can make sure I say the right thing on these. They are the February growth rates. So the lighter color bars were what the growth rates were in March of 19 over February of 19. The dark blue lines are what the growth rates were, which are all negative in the those in the credit card, and these are all credit card transactions only. So what it's showing you is the city with, these are some major cities that they looked at these credit card transactions for. The first city is Phoenix. The Phoenix area has had the least impact in terms of lost, at least credit card transactions of the major cities they reviewed. The city that's on the far other end is San Francisco. It had the greatest loss in rather than growth in terms of loss when comparing same months in prior years. So, and what the article was suggesting is San Francisco is the first city to have a stay-at-home order. It has had the worst impact. The next three highest COVID rates are the next rates are the next three cities with the greatest loss or greatest reduction in their growth rate and their revenues. So they're kind of suggesting that in the areas on the better side, there was lesser impacts, at least so far, from the COVID in those communities. So it seems like everybody's being impacted, but certainly you're impacted much worse if you have a higher rate of COVID cases. This chart, and again, just to remind you, these are credit card transactions only. So what this chart is showing you is The darker blue line are growth in-store sales, so walking in the door buying. The green bar is growth in credit card and online sales. And so the first area there with the biggest growth rate is groceries. That's probably a combination of two things happening there. One is people are shifting from restaurants to eating at home and also stocked up on groceries. But probably there's not as many people were buying their groceries with credit cards before, so it probably has a little bit of an impact that if you're buying online, you pretty much use your credit card, so if you're shifting there, so that may be skewed a little bit in terms of how severe that change is. But then if you go about 5 blue bars in, that's the restaurant and bar drop. And so we can see that there is a shift from restaurant and bar to food for home consumption. And again, these rates kind of align more along what we were projecting would happen, and more maybe along the rest of the country is experiencing. And so, but perhaps we aren't experiencing quite as severe as an impact as some of these other areas. So it's a good news story that we're getting tax on online sales, and we're seeing that that things are trending better for us than perhaps some other areas. So then moving on to some other areas of revenues, property tax, no change from before. We are sharing with you the information about the impact on a Goodyear home worth a value out of $100,000. We did assume the full 5% maximum allowed growth in appreciation. Essentially, a Goodyear tax on a $100,000 home would go from $173.32 to $182.02. So less than a $9 increase in property tax, and it's like less than 75 cents a week. And I think folks are getting some a nice recreation campus and a city hall and a fire station out of those taxes.
I want to stop you right now. I'm afraid if we go on.
Quick question
Councilman
on the 100,000. Is that state statute that we compare it to?
The 100,000 is what they require in the truth in taxation notification, so we tend to use that.
The reason why I ask is, reality is probably 200, 250 in Goodyear, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I appreciate how you're showing it, because the reality is, at least if the maximum is a 5% increase, and again, as I always state, we don't adopt a rate, we adopt a levy. And the rate is just a byproduct of the levy. And as a result of that, if your property is going up 5%, if we keep the rate the same, you got a 5% increase. So I appreciate you showing that as far as being transparent on what we're doing. So I appreciate that.
Right, and because the rate has changed so little, it is essentially a 5% increase. In terms of other revenues, state shared revenues, we still don't have any new information. Well, I'll take that back. We did get some new information from the league late last week with new estimates on sales tax, but they did not provide new estimates for the vehicle license tax or for the HERF. So we haven't changed our estimates. Theirs were a little bit lower than our estimates, but they weren't different enough that we would make a change right now. So we will continue. We're moving forward with the estimates that we use, and we'll wait to see what kind of information they give us on HERF and vehicle license tax. Income tax is known, and because of the 2-year lag, so we're continuing forward with that. We still have not put in our population factor. We did get that population information, but it's all blended in with their new revenue estimates, so we want to take a little more time to figure out what the population portion of our increase would be. Development-related activity, just a reminder that we did not assume any decline in development activity in preparing our estimates. We just used our normal approach of being very conservative with both the fees and the construction sales tax portion. We did this year do one, or in '21, we did one difference, which was we assumed that the one-time supplementals would only bring in 50% of the revenue. In building this year's budget, we assumed 100% revenue to offset those. I will share with you that we have had 3 months of lower same month single-family permits issued for the last 3 months. The first 2 months we expected because last year we had the beginning of the new impact fees. So we had a run on permits in those 2 months. So really the May results are really the first month where it's an unexpected decline. But I would also let you know that we've already exceeded last year's total permits for single-family residences through May. And so it looks like FY20 will be a peak on single-family building permits as we move forward from here. Also, as a reminder, there are some rate and fees studies going on, and as we just disclosed at the manager's budget, there's no rate and fee growth assumptions in here, anticipating those studies coming forward to you early next fiscal year so that you can act on those. Reminding you that we should expect an increase in the water rates because of the surface water project, and those utility rate changes at least usually go into effect in January. So we'll continue to move forward on bringing those to you later on. And then just in terms of expenditures, again, not much of a change other than the contingencies piece has grown for the manager's budget because of putting that additional $12 million into the general fund special contingency, which is now at $17.1 million. And then general fund, this again shows you where those resources are going, a bigger chunk going to contingency. I'll also talk in another slide or two about there's a change here relative to the CIP and transfers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. The net change to the budget's the same. And then this just shows you the actual general fund budget that doesn't include the transfers is $150 million, and almost half of that is made up of personal services, and almost a quarter of it of contingencies, which is the normal city contingent, the normal general fund contingency plus that special contingency. Again, just quickly, their base budget covers salary increases and salaries and benefits, the increases we talked about. And as a reminder, the budget right now only includes must-do supplementals, which were described basically as operating costs for new capital facilities such as the recreation campus, the fire stations, and then obligations that we have to do. There are some things that we have no choice. We have contractual obligations to move forward. So the change in the CIP is we're moving into an environment, and already in an environment where we have some pretty complex funding in some of our projects, such as the surface water projects or the recreation campus. And it's very difficult for departments to know, gee, when I pay for the art on this project, I can't use the impact fees for that, or that we need to spend the bond funds before we spend the general funds or the water funds. So what we've done is we're changing how we account for multi-funded capital projects. We're accounting for them in a single fund. So there's now a general government capital fund where our projects like the recreation campus and the fire stations are. And what we're doing is then transferring in the funds from the bond funds and the impact fees into that single fund. Because it is, we've come to you with a lot of budget transfers where we are dealing with that, gee, we really need to spend this money first and that money second. So this will allow the finance department to control the order in which we spend funds on those multi-funded projects. There are certainly development agreements that it's important for us to make sure we bill those developers for those resources and we spend them in the appropriate order. So it makes the budget look a little bit different, but it's a net zero change to the bottom line budget from doing that. Just a quick overview of the CIP. It's now at almost $587 million. This does reflect the ultimate funding source, so you aren't seeing a big amount of money going into those, that big capital fund, so you can kind of see where funds come from. And then this is just the projects, pretty much the same slide we showed you before, where we have the recreation campus, the surface water project, the fire stations, are all the really big projects that are in there. Starting some streets projects next year, traffic signals, and then the expansion of the police ops design will begin next year. Those types of projects are included as well. And then just to go over how we came up with this, so we're at the $17.1 million on the general fund special contingency. Again, that's resources that we have assumed are available, assuming the revenue estimates continue to hold. We'd come back to you mid-year to look for opportunities to spend those resources. There are certainly a number of supplementals that I think the manager would have liked to have recommended to you to fund. We heard you tonight talk about maybe advancing an art project. So there's those types of projects that this $17.1 million is intended to be spent. As long as those revenue estimates hold, then it will require your approval to spend those. And then just to show you that with the changes we've shown here, we're still in compliance with financial policy. The major change being that we continue to show that we're not spending all of our ongoing money on ongoing purposes. There's $1 million of ongoing resources that have not been programmed to ongoing needs, and they're being used for one-time items instead. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions and ask that you approve the Resolution 2020-2035 tentatively adopting the budget.
Again, always a good presentation, excuse me. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody like to speak? Any of the audience?
I thought you were asking for us.
Because I'm going to ask you after the motion discussion, okay? Sorry, I had a cough and I took a cough drop and now I have a benzo. So, will the city clerk please read resolution number 2020-2035 by title only?
Adopt resolution number 2020-2035, adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 estimates of revenues and expenses for the city of Goodyear, including estimated property tax levy and property tax rates, as the tentative budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021, setting forth the receipts and the amounts estimated as collectible for the previous fiscal year, the amount proposed to be raised by direct property taxation for the various purposes, giving notice of the time for hearing taxpayers, for adoption of budget, and setting the tax levies.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
To approve resolution number, you're really in a hurry, aren't you, to approve? I'll be there, but can I have a motion, a second, to approve the resolution number 2020-2035? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Stipp made a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. So I'm going to do roll call, and I never gave you what you wanted to say. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Now it's discussion.
Can I do that?
Yeah, it's open for discussion if anybody had comments.
Discussion now before we roll call.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to get your permission.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to do it right once in a while. Okay, thank you. Councilman Pizzillo?
I appreciate all the effort, especially on your estimates, being as conservative, and it looks like it's all going to pan out as it goes. As I'm going through the city, driving through the city, I've noticed that things are really starting to pick up. My disappointment is there's a lot of no mask when you're milling around. A lot of the people out there, whether it's in the food store or in the shopping areas, anywhere, you know, I stopped in the mall the other day. I had a mask. But very few did. So I just hope this thing doesn't take back off again as a result of that, and a lot of people that happen to be out in the evenings. But if it continues the way it is, I think we're going to be fine. So I appreciate all the efforts, and especially the conservative approach. Thank you.
Any other? Yes, Councilman Hampton.
Yeah, also, I know it's very hard. I mean, normally we don't have a pandemic going on, so I appreciate all of your hard work and trying to be flexible and trying to make estimates in all this time here. So to Councilman Pazzilla's point, yeah, I do hope that we get back to normal sooner than later for our economy and for the people in Goodyear. But I tell people that Goodyear's in a better position because of how conservative that we've been compared to some of our other cities in the area. So I do appreciate the following the policies and the direction that past councils have set before us as well. So it's definitely put us in a great position. So thank you.
Yes, Councilman Lortown.
I want to thank you for all your hard work and for the public that's listening. The reason there aren't a lot of questions is that we all spent several hours with you in small group meetings and the city manager discussing these issues and stuff. So I think our questions have been answered. I appreciate it. And here, design a budget with a pandemic. So great job to your whole team. I appreciate it. And as Councilmember Hampton and Councilmember Pizzilla said, we are in a very good position. And I think our city is very fortunate that we are not talking about cutting services to our residents. That services are coming online as health allows, not budget isn't the issue, it's just the health. So thank you very much for your whole, I know your team's not here this time, but if you could let them know, thank you for all their hard work, because I know it's difficult for them doing it remotely and everything, that all the hurdles you had, so thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Councilman Hampton. No, he's over there. Go ahead.
Well, I also want to express my thanks, Lori, and a couple of questions. I know that normally you do a public meeting and you would do an open house. How will you be doing the public meeting this year?
Well, we will be posting just in your handout, we had a budget overview that we normally hand out at those meetings, so we will be posting that on our website, but we haven't planned a specific event. It was too hard to try to plan anything in advance.
If citizens have questions, will they be able to connect with somebody to get their questions answered?
They can always.
Okay.
Yep,
good.
they're welcome to contact us and we will answer questions. We've also, by state statute, we've also been notifying people about the public hearing that comes up. In 2 weeks from now, you'll hold a public hearing before you adopt the budget and you adopt the truth in taxation change. So, but we will continue to look for ways to do additional outreach as best we can in this environment.
Okay. And my other question is related to some of the inquiries we've been getting. Just want to confirm that there is no adverse action or budget cuts to any of our public safety.
No, there's no reductions in our base budget level for public safety. We're no elimination of positions, no cutbacks in any of their expenses.
Thank you.
Councilman Campbell.
Well, Lori, I want to thank you and Doug and all of your staff for this great presentation. It's wonderful to talk to you on the phone. Thank you very much. I do want to commend all of us for being so conservative in doing our due diligence, and that's why we're in the shape we're in. I would like the public to know that we did increase the budgets for both police and fire a little bit. Nothing was cut from them, and we anticipate opening new fire stations this year and next year, and we also, for the police department, have the design of the second floor of their police administration building in this budget, which is really a great thing for them because we've been working on this public safety building 12 or 15 years. So hopefully it will become a reality where it's totally finished and we can actually house all of our PD into one place. I do want to say thank you for the single capital project fund that you're going to put together for the CIP. I would suspect it would be very difficult for all these department heads to remember what money to spend first and how to do it. And it's just makes sense that the finance department is doing all of it under one fund. And then you'll know which to allocate from which fund because we have so many different funds to fund all the things that we are doing. And our wonderful city will be getting a recreation campus, and there's money in this budget to run it. It's not we're going to build it and then shutter it. We're going to build it, and we're actually going to have it open for our residents to use, and I'm so excited about that. And to get our city hall and a new library is just amazing for this time right now. So fortunately, the COVID-19 has not stopped us from moving ahead, and we will continue to do that. So thank you very much.
Any other comments before I ask Bill Stiff again?
Again, I haven't spoken yet.
Oh, yes, you have.
Right,
Behind
ironically.
the scenes, go ahead.
Lori, just to briefly echo what everyone's saying, thank you and the team for your diligence in getting us through this difficult time. I know you work obviously very closely with Doug and as we get ready to move forward, but this probably will go down in the record books as one of the most challenging years ever. But just thank you for that, and please express my thanks to the rest of the team as well.
Any other comment? Well, I want to thank you. I just really want to thank all the staff and all the departments. This has been a real challenge this year, but I would compare us to other cities, and I'd say financially, we are pretty sound. And we can pay the bills, and we can still build. And that's a lot of brain power and great attitude. And thank you, City Manager. I'm just so proud to say we're Goodyear, and we are good. So thank you. All right. I think the discussion's finished. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano? Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, we're down to the last, and I know everybody wants a break before this work session, but let's just finish. Any comments or words you want to talk about? Then I'm going to let the city manager talk a moment. I didn't hear that. Oh, I didn't see your finger up. I'm sorry, Councilman Loretano, you're on.
Yeah, I want to say a thank you to, this week's been really tough for people in our state and our country with everything that's going on, and Goodyear's not immune. But I want to say thank you to, first of all, our citizens who exercised their First Amendment right as peaceful demonstrators for issues that they wanted to bring to everyone's attention, and I think everyone heard what their issues were, and that's what our Constitution allows. I also want to thank our police officers, because it's really hard to get lumped in when you hear such horrid things that other people do. But there was something good that was posted. There was a demonstration or a march up in Estrella, and there was a compliment. If I can just take a minute and read this compliment to our police officers.
Yes, thank you.
This gentleman posted on the Estrella site, and he was there with his son, and he says, "My sons and I walked away from the protest past Star Point, a few servicemen standing outside their Humvees along with a few Goodyear police officers and their sergeant. They stopped to converse with my sons, and I gave us each Powerades and water. We talked about the protest, and the sergeant," that's the police sergeant, "made a remark to my son that I will never forget. He said, 'Sons, you are witnessing history now. You have to decide what side of history you will be on when you tell your kids what's going on. I want you to know that Goodyear PD stands with you. Black lives matter to the Goodyear PD. You matter to the Goodyear PD.' I hugged him and thanked him for his words of love he gave my sons. As a former police officer who himself has lost faith in the profession, this white officer brought tears to my eye. I didn't get his name, but know that you are appreciated. Thank you." And I think that sums it all up, that our police and our citizens can make Goodyear and the world a better place together. So that made me very happy. And I did share that with other people and other cities because I really think it exemplifies our officers and our chief and how he has handled the situation. So I just want to let you all know that.
That's a great way to end this portion. Thank you. It's a wonderful letter. So City Manager. I didn't forget you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I am obligated under ordinance, but it is my honor to introduce a new member of our leadership team. He is not here in person with us, but we're going to put a picture up of Mr. Justin Fair, and he is our new Justin Fair, excuse me, and he's our new Chief Information Officer. He started with the city on May 29th and has hit the ground running. He came to us from UMC Health System in Lubbock, Texas, where he served as the Director of IT Infrastructure. Prior to joining UMC, Justin served as Infrastructure Supervisor and Information Security Officer for the Yuma Regional Medical Center from 2008 to 2011. Justin comes to us with an MBA, 20 years of experience, and various certifications. Justin and his wife, Veronica, 3 children, and 3 fur babies are looking forward to connecting with their new community. Welcome to the city of Goodyear, Justin. We are glad to have you join our team. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have just one more compliment to make. Laura Jara, this is your first really time on the stage, right? As the Deputy City Manager, as I remember? Alone.
Actually, my second time
Okay.
alone. So
Alone.
first time alone, yes.
Yeah, first time alone, I thought so. You did a great job. Thank you very much. Just one question. Should I adjourn this and open the other one to take a break?
Mayor, you can just adjourn this, take a break, and then we'll start the other game.
Okay, all right. With no further business, this meeting is adjourned. There will be. Oh, did you, I have to repeat that? Pardon me? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Thank you for giving Katie and I the opportunity to have a discussion and seek some policy direction from you tonight on digital signs. So before we begin in earnest in the conversation tonight, I thought it would be helpful to just establish a common understanding regarding the typical types of signage that you can see around different communities. The first type is static signs, which is this one on the bottom left. Of course, static implies that it doesn't change very frequently, and it is typically, the signs are typically mounted on the sign structure itself with simply panels and letters. A changeable copy sign, which is this one right here where the mouse is moving, has the ability for messages to be easily changed and installed. And those letters are individually applied. Typically, there's tracks that run horizontally and they just slide in and out. Digital messaging, this one right here, is typically a monochromatic text message board that uses a computer to simply generate letters and words. An electronic message board, this type over here, is more advanced, and it typically has LED displays that use a computer to generate images, potentially video, pictures, and also text. They're very similar, but a little bit different, but very similar to the TVs that we may have in our homes. Another important distinction to make regarding digital signage is based on the intended audience. An EMC, or electronic message board, and digital billboards are not the same thing. An EMC is placed on site on the property of the business and advertises the goods and services available at that location. On the other hand, digital billboards are typically placed adjacent to major transportation routes such as I-10 with a lot of traffic, and they advertise off-site goods and services to a very broad and diverse audience.
Thank you. There are digital signs currently in Goodyear. Generally, they aren't allowed except in the entertainment district, which I'll talk about in just a moment. We do allow digital signs for fuel pricing, and that's because federal law requires gas stations to display their fuel prices and then update them regularly as gas changes. And so only the fuel price itself is allowed to be a digital sign. That's the only digital sign that's permitted. Schools are exempt from the zoning ordinance, which includes the sign ordinance. So schools can have digital signs, so some of them do in the city of Goodyear. We do have a non-permitted sign at the community park that was installed many, many, many years ago. And then there are a couple freeway pylon signs that include digital elements. It's important to note that a freeway pylon sign is on-site signage. It's different than the digital marquee signs. And those digital elements were approved through special use permits or zoning processes. The entertainment district was created a couple years ago when we updated the sign ordinance. Digital signs were permitted in this area because it is a regional commercial area. It's different than other commercial areas in the city. There are likely to be more outside visitors visiting this area. It is much higher intensity, higher density type uses. When we created this area, we did create regulations such as how bright digital signs can be, how often they can change. We can't really tell you how those regulations are working because we haven't had any digital signs go up in the entertainment district. We have had just a couple requests for digital signs over the years. One was an informal request by Walgreens, specifically the one on Pebble Creek and McDowell, but you know, oftentimes Walgreens do have digital components, and they made a request, and when we told them at the time we didn't allow digital signs, they didn't pursue it further. And then more recently, Culver's has actually made a submittal for a digital sign, which was not approved by city staff since we don't allow digital signs in the area they are locating. There are pros and cons to digital signs. Several of the pros include it does increase messaging to the public. It's easy for a business to change it out. And it may be an improved aesthetic over other options such as the changeable copy that Christopher showed us. Some of the cons include it can be a distraction, especially to drivers. The city does have very limited to no ability to respond to the content. We can't regulate content of signage, only if it's off-site or on-site signage. And then if there could be potential impacts to nearby residents. Thanks. We did look at our neighboring communities to find out who allows digital signs. And just so you know, this pertains only to commercial. Several of the cities will allow digital signs under certain circumstances. We were trying to find out more broadly in commercial districts who allows them. Chandler and Glendale did not allow them broadly in commercial districts. Surprise allows monument signs, and what I mean by that are those freestanding monument signs in front of a business, and they could either be advertising a single business or be a multi-tenant sign that has multiple businesses listed on them. And then 5 cities, Avondale, Buckeye, Gilbert, Mesa, and Phoenix, allowed digital components both as a freestanding monument sign or wall signage, meaning the signage that is actually displayed on the building itself, advertising. Now, again, this is a very broad categorizing. Each of these cities has different regulations and limitations on how they allow the digital signs. Thank you. We also looked at if they require separation from residential, and 4 cities do require digital signs to have some sort of separation from residential, single-family residential, I should say, uses, whereas 3 cities do not require any separation.
Thank you, Katie. So tonight, as we begin to pivot to the policy direction portion of the conversation tonight, just want to make a couple of things, excuse me, clear. Digital or electronic signs are simply just another type of signage. If this type of signage is supported and we're given direction to move forward to allow them in the community, then the normal and customary approach to sign regulations are clearly supported by recent case law. And what I mean by that is it's very clear and supported by case law that we can address sign issues, things like brightness, how big they are, where they go on a property, are they on the wall, are they a monument, and how that message may transition so it doesn't blink and create real bad distractions, and how it transitions should it dissolve and things of that nature, or how long it even has to stay up in order to help with that, the safety of the motoring public on the roadways. So those are the things that we can clearly do without any question or without any problems. Conversely, due to the Reed case, the Supreme Court of the United States imposed limitations on what cities can address. In short, as Katie alluded to, sign regulation has to be content neutral, which means that we cannot use what is said or read on a sign in order to determine compliance with city requirements. Signs are protected by the First Amendment. And therefore, if the digital or electronic signs are allowed or be supported by the city, by the council as part of the direction tonight, we cannot pick and choose the types of businesses that can utilize digital signage. It's very clear that we cannot address the content of digital signage, again, as Katie alluded to. Digital signs would be allowed at businesses that council is very excited about and supportive of, but conversely, they may also be allowed at businesses that you're maybe a little less enthusiastic about, like smoke shops or pawn shops or medical marijuana, things of that nature. The city cannot limit digital signage also to just allow text, because you have to read what the sign says in order to determine if it's text or pictures. So as technology changes over time and we transition to more detailed pictures and things of that nature, that type of content on the signs would also be allowed. So keeping our presentation brief, We just kind of wanted to outline a little bit about the history of what's been in the city, some common understanding of what digital signage is, and some things that we can address and things that frankly we don't have any ability to address. And so we have a couple of different policy options here for you to consider. The first one, A, is do nothing, and we can just continue to allow digital signage in the entertainment district. And of course, there's no time at all to implement that. There doesn't take any effort because we already allow it. Option B would be to support digital signage, instruct us to move forward with the appropriate amendments to allow it in the city. And then we can address those brightness issues, where they go, if they go on a wall or on a monument sign, and how those messages change. And we would expect that to take 5 or 6 months in order to come back to council. And see if there's other things that council would like to investigate, such as special use permits or separation requirements from other businesses with digital signs, or how far away from residential. Those things can start getting kind of very legal in nature, and we would need to work closely with our friends in the legal department. And because of that complexity, we would anticipate that taking a little bit longer than option B right there on the slide. So with that, Mayor, happy to turn it over.
Thank you very much. All right, discussion. Yes, Councilman Stipp, Vice Mayor Stipp.
Bill, that works. In an effort not to pontificate, but I am curious. To me, it makes sense for us to continue this in some form of extending the boundaries of our entertainment district. For example, running it all the way down Estrella Parkway to MC 85, running it to Litchfield Road, kind of strip annex mentality, to Litchfield Road, Litchfield from McDowell south to Van Buren, to just in those areas that are non-residential, et cetera, that we know are going to be our commercial corridors. Pebble Creek Parkway, I think, was in that map. But I'm not sure if but I believe it was. So I would be very much in favor of that, so we're not getting it just popping up on the corner of Bullard and Indian School, right in the middle of 3 sides of residential. Now we've got this, marquee or whatever it is you want to call it. However, saying all of that, looking at the timeline, excuse me, Culver's is a now issue. Have we given them advice about having it being like our sign at the park, a non-conforming or whatever the term was for it, that we would allow it, give them an opportunity to expedite that? Culver's is known for their little digital marquee. Mm-hmm. When we approved Culver's, I assumed, wrongfully so, that we had already done this. Otherwise, I would have done it that night, made sure that we were able to get them the electronic signage that they're absolutely known for. So I'm looking for two solutions. One is the long term, how do we extend this? And then B, the short term, how do we get Culver's to get what they need so that they can continue to be the shop that they are, and the reason that we all were so excited that they were here, not only for their store, but also for their regional headquarters and training.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Mayor, Vice Mayor Stipp, with regard to the extension of the entertainment district, bringing them down, extending it down Australia Parkway or down Litchfield or up Pebble Creek or so forth, really then puts us in a position that we're picking and choosing the portions of the community where our electronic signs can go. And so there's, if you think about it, what's the difference on Van Buren than at the corner of Litchfield over by Arby's, for example? There's really fundamentally not a whole lot of difference. No residential over there. There's no residential right over here by our office either. So it puts us in that position where we have to pick and choose. And I think that puts us in a legally precarious portion. And I might turn that over to Rourke in order to
No, I agree. I think once you start broadening it up into those areas, you are exposing yourself to the picking and choosing. I think you can distinguish obviously between the zoning categories, the commercial versus the residential, and you can even impose setback requirements from residential within those commercial zonings. But I think once you've stretched that entertainment district to those ends, you're probably getting a little more risky legally, rather than just looking at allowance by right in commercial with the regulations that Christopher talked about.
Okay, so if that's not the option, then I guess I would look at your option B, I think, to do that. But that does not preclude I don't want it to take 6 months before Culver's gets their sign. So if there's a piece in that, I mean, when I heard that we had denied Culver's sign request, I was flabbergasted. So I'm hoping that we can find a way to do these things parallel. One we get to yes, and the one we keep going to get to the comprehensive solution.
Are you done? Okay, Councilman Bazzillo.
Just for clarification, you say we can't regulate text, but if they had that old-fashioned kind where they slide the stuff in front, we couldn't tell them what they put on that either, I would assume, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We can't regulate the content of the signs. That's correct.
So those kind would be easier for some mischievous individuals at night to kind of move letters around, and you go down the street and there's all kinds of words sitting on there. I think with electronics, it's a little more protected because it's by a computer, by the business. I'm with Councilmember Stipp. I was surprised at Culver's. I've seen their signs. It's not intrusive at all. And they rely very heavily on that sign to move their ice cream specials. So I'm with Vice Mayor Stipp on that. I'd like to see Culver's get that sign, but not create a mass hysteria of signs everywhere. And I don't know how you do it. That's what you guys get paid to do. But I think denying Culver's, is a mistake.
Wally?
Well, I'm going to add to the mixture. I certainly want a moving sign by our new recreation center or the pool. I mean, where else are we going to advertise pool hours or special events or whatever? And that's right down from Culver's anyway. We need to promote in our city, and especially right now with the COVID-19 crisis and all of our businesses shut down and we don't know how many are going to come back. I think we need to do everything we can to get them going. Whatever it takes. And I don't mind a sign at Walgreens. When I go through Avondale and I go by their Walgreens and I read the moving signs and it tells me Diet Coke's on sale, 3 for $9.99, I stop and go in there. I don't have to read their ad. I just have to read their moving signs. So I know in years past we've had a lot of problems with our sign ordinances of being too restrictive. And I just think now maybe we need to take a fresh look. But I'm with Bill and with Joe. I'm absolutely astounded that we're even talking about Culver's having a moving sign because they always do. So maybe next time if y'all bring something before us and we're going to vote to even let them come in our city, we need to have all of that part of the conversation that, yeah, they're the kind that has the moving signs and we need to approve everything at once so that they don't have to think we're having to discuss it separately just to give them a sign package, and we're delighted they're here in Goodyear. We recruited them.
Next, Councilman Loretano.
I think we're going to have so far 4 for 4 here. I agree with the last 3 that spoke. Yeah, I'm surprised that Culver's sign wasn't approved because that is kind of their trademark. Thank you. So I don't have a problem. We're not talking about putting giant pylon signs everywhere down the street. That area has changed since I think we even did our entertainment district, our original one, because now we are putting our rec center and all that. I mean, that's now kind of changed and some of the other stuff that may go in there. So I don't have a problem with it. And if there's something we can do to push Culver's sign, ahead till we get this, so they don't have to wait 6 months, so they can get it done with their building, so they're not going back and reconstructing whatever electrical and stuff they need for that. I would fully support that. I think when we had some of these original sign ordinances, digital wasn't the thing, and technology has changed, and I think we need to keep up with it. And of course, make sure that they're not blaring into neighborhoods with sound and lights into people's homes. But Estrella, on that one section where they are, there's no homes right there. So I think that is acceptable. So if we could do that, and then so other businesses in our rec center can have a sign that says like our community park. So I'm fine with that.
Councilman Hampton?
I mean, I want to also make sure businesses are able to do what they need to do, but I also want to make sure that, to your point, that, I don't know, they don't look tacky, that they're controlled, that they are still not so bright, and all the different things that control it, so it can still look like a good, I don't know, like we want to with Goodyear. So, however that looks like in translation to that. Are we currently at risk, I guess to Rorik's point, are we currently at risk letting or having a district, entertainment district? So I know he mentioned he didn't want to extend it to other areas of the town that might expose us to more things, but we're already treating one part of town different than the rest, right?
Mayor, may I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Mayor, Councilperson Hampton, the entertainment district right now, as Katie alluded to, is intended to be very high-density commercial regional draw, where people from outside the city come for goods and services and entertainment. And so because of that differentiation, that is not everywhere in the city. It's just in that location. So from that perspective, it does make sense to have different requirements. There are hours of operation, noise, all of those different types of things are more flexible and allowable in that entertainment district.
Yeah, and I don't even know what Culver's trademark sign even looks like, but but either way, but that, I mean, Culver's is, I'm worried about the park, if there's going to be, I don't know how we control the flashing lights and things like that, and people playing and doing things over there at nighttime. I don't know if it'll be that big of effect, or the houses that are somewhat close to that Culver's, but I don't know. I just so make sure it's somewhat controlled. If there's some districts, extend it down a little farther. Just depends if we want it high density or not. But yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it. I want to make sure the businesses can do well, but I want to make sure Goodyear still looks good also. So.
Yeah. Laura.
Can we look at the slide that says different types of signage? Okay, so the digital messaging with just the words, we see everywhere, anywhere we go places, and they're sort of unremarkable, but I'm not clear about, I feel like we've been using the term digital messaging and electronic message center interchangeably. Are they different as the picture? I don't know. Is that changing? Is it colorful?
Mayor, Councilperson Kano, so as a result of the U.S. Supreme Court case, I'm going to borrow this for a second, Katie. The pointer's over here. Here it is. As a result of the U.S. Supreme Court case, we, cities, not just Goodyear, but cities overall, cannot make a distinction between this type of digital sign or this type. Either you allow them or you choose not to allow them.
Okay, thank you. That helps me to understand. I used to work in downtown Phoenix, and they'd have those vans come by with those digital billboards driving around those streets. Are those permitted in Goodyear?
Oh, thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Kano. That wouldn't be considered signage.
Okay.
It's a vehicle.
Okay, that's really interesting. Well, I am in favor of the digital signing in the commercial districts. Just curious if we would regulate if there's a minimum distance between digital signs, or if proximity to intersections has any bearing to do with appropriate signage.
Mayor, Vice, excuse me.
You can put her vice for
Yeah.
tonight. It's okay.
Councilperson Kano, we have some homework to do. Sounds like council's direction is to let's allow digital signage in the community. So we need to see what's best practices in terms of not just the brightness of the signs themselves, but how far apart from residential they are, as well as how close to other signs they can be located. So we have homework to do.
Okay, just curious, even if the signs go out when the businesses are closed, or if the signs stay on. Interesting. So this is sort of a sidebar. I believe the city put up a digital sign in front of Liberty Utilities westbound on McDowell, just west of Litchfield, but it's never been used. What is that? Oh, on McDowell? Oh, okay. I was just curious. I've always wondered.
We'll get some additional information for you, but that's
Okay.
correct. It's an ADOT sign, and it's limited to what the messaging can be.
All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Any other comments?
Mayor, may I?
Yes, you
I
may.
don't think we got to Vice Mayor Stipp's question number 2, which was how to get culverts done. But just to be clear for everybody, this current ordinance outside of the entertainment district does not allow digital signage. So we have no administrative ability to approve anything because we would be going against what the ordinance and what the law says. So just to be clear with that. So that's why we're here tonight. With regard to culverts moving forward, we cannot permit a sign to go in there and look the other way. But what we can do, as we were talking with the city attorney, is they could install it and just leave it blank until we get the regulations created.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Okay, so I understand the ordinance prohibits you as staff from administratively doing that. What prohibits us from taking an action? Can't we issue a special use permit? How did we get the digital sign up on our own property?
That's
In the high school?
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer to that.
Well, the high school education is exempt.
Yeah, we're exempt because it's a governmental use. You don't necessarily have to comply with your
So
zoning
we took our own
codes.
loophole.
Yeah, is one answer. But the other answer is, it's going to require a zoning text amendment. Now, we can work to shorten that time period that was presented this evening, but we really need to bring the zoning code into compliance. You can't really handle a zoning matter as a one-off, then you're into spot zoning, which is a whole other issue. So I think the best we can do is expedite the zoning text amendment to permit the digital signs, and perhaps, as we were talking about, maybe there's a way where they could construct but not activate, if that would address that one issue.
How close are they to needing it up?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Stipp, my understanding is that they would like to open the first part of August.
So can we have it ready so that they can turn it on?
We need to do some research, and we have to go through an advertisement process and so forth, legally mandated advertisement process and so forth. And so by the time you add up those steps, I can tell you we won't have it done by August.
Okay.
Councilman Campbell?
So Christopher, are you saying that we can't do an ordinance before August because you have to advertise we're going to pass an ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay, how long does it take you to advertise it? 30 days? Does it have to go through planning and zoning?
Yes, ma'am. It has to go through Planning Commission as well.
For us to do an ordinance? Really?
For a zoning amendment, yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Wow, I think we're in the wrong business, council. Wow.
Mayor,
Yes.
Councilperson Campbell, it's just like any zoning land use change, like the ones you heard tonight from Christian with the rezoning of the Goodyear 82 or so forth. We have to give notice There has to be noticed. We have to go to Planning Commission. They have to hold a public hearing. So the process, regardless if we're changing words or paragraphs in the ordinance itself or changing a land use designation on the ground, is the same.
Well, how do we change the sign ordinance? Do we have to go through this, through planning and zoning and all of that, just because we want to change the sign ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then maybe we can get it done by September. There's no we know what we want to do.
Yeah, we need,
I'll make
we
it so
have,
difficult that it's going to take 6, 8, 10 months to do it.
we will get it back to you as expeditiously as possible. We do need to follow the law so it's not invalidated and we don't have a legal problem. But we clearly understand the direction and we'll work to implement it as quickly as possible.
Councilman Pizzillo?
Yeah, if there's legally things you have to follow, you have to follow, maybe, and again, question for the attorney. Can we give the owner a heads up that they could structure it in a way that it's coming, but because of certain requirements that we have to do, it won't be there by the time he opens, but maybe there shortly afterwards?
We can certainly communicate the direction the staff was given this tonight from council, but there are statutorily certain processes and
No,
timeframes.
I understand that. I would just hate to see him build something on his building that they would have to rip down and redo to meet the requirements. That's my only question.
Understood.
Go ahead, Christopher. Answer that.
Mayor, Councilmember Pizzillo, we've had some conversations with the gentleman with Culver's before, and he would intend to construct his sign and have a panel there that could pop out that then he could install the digital electronic message board in that area of the signage, so the whole sign doesn't have to be ripped down or anything of that nature. There's a component that would pop out and you push this in and connect it all up.
That works for me. Councilman Loretano?
I think that's a good idea, so they don't have to do the electric and all that stuff that's going to go to it. Is there any way, and I don't know, we made exceptions before for grand openings to have signs out longer before and stuff. Is there any way that we could fit the Culver sign into one of those exceptions like we've done before to let people have their grand opening banners out or have extra that usually don't? We did that at one time too.
Mayor, Councilperson Loretano, we, as part of the mayor's executive order declaring a state of emergency for COVID, we have allowed a lot of extra signage in the community, and you've probably seen that around when we're out and about to support our businesses. And so Culver's is certainly eligible to take advantage of all of those benefits in terms of grand opening signage or other signage during this time. If you're referring to the electronic message board, because that is not allowed by the ordinance, I think we're back to the same spot that we were before, that the way that the Culver's can construct is to put a panel in there that can pop out and then at the applicable time, pop in the electronic message center.
I tried.
Well, I can see that's a lot of work. Was council all finished? Brandon, did you want to
I
talk?
was
Go
just
ahead, sorry.
following up. Yeah, I just want to make sure if we're gonna do just for Culver's, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I guess I'm trying in my mind. I'm trying to remember what a street looks like in Phoenix or other places where all these digital signs are at. And I don't know. I just want to make sure Goodyear looks good. I want to make sure we're smart about the spacing, the brightness, and everything else. I just don't want it to look like Phoenix or some other places that I wouldn't want to. I don't know, because we're different than those other places too. So I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence when we're going through, even though we're trying to sound like I want to make sure Culver's is successful too. I just want to make sure we're not just for them, that we don't make the rest of the city not look good because of that. And I remember it was a long process last time you brought the sign ordinance to us. So that was like a year and a half process of all the signage, and we passed that, I think, a couple of years back. So I know it's not, because there's a lot of detail in that ordinance. So yeah, I just want to make sure we do it right. So.
Did you want to address that, Christopher?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. When we updated the sign ordinance in 2017, I believe it was about a year and a half process, and we really engaged with the business community to make sure that we were addressing the issues that were important to them. As part of this process, we would also engage the business community to make sure that the digital signage that we're proposing isn't creating some other unintentional consequence for them as well. So we can't just do this. We're not going to just do this in a vacuum by ourselves and come back to you real quick. We need to come back so that we do it one time and correctly to address the issues that you've brought forward, create some flexibility as per the council direction tonight, and allow businesses to move forward with it. But we also want to work with the chamber and with our friends in ECDEV and have some meetings with the business community as well. So, because we want to get it right and do it only one time.
Is everybody finished? Oh,
No, I was just going to say, Brandon, if you want to take a look at a Culver's, there's one, I believe, at Avondale Boulevard
it is.
in Avondale, to see what that sign looks like.
Right, you can see it from the highway.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess it's more the visibility than where it is, too. It is a concern. We've had problems with signs since I've been on the council since 2005. It's been brought up, and we were extremely conservative for a long, long time. And of course, then when he had I-10 sign, that became controversial. And before that, it was controversial for the shopping center when Macy's was coming in. And so people screamed about that because it's too high, it shows, the lights look too bright, and we heard all of that. And so we did it anyway, but I guess we must have done it within the law, or nobody noticed. I have a little bit, I think a little bit of both.
Turn on the mic, yes.
Yeah,
we did it
I
within
think a little bit of both. And this is kind of the same way, a little bit of both. So my feeling on it is close as we can get to the accomplishment. It's going to take time. And if they're willing to put up, the standard frame and bear with us, I liked the overlay idea. The reason I like the overlay idea, because we got the stadium down there. We don't do anything with the stadium either, except the lights. It's a stadium. Look at the money we've put in that. We should have something when you pass that. I know there's houses across the street, and I know that they don't like the fireworks, and they don't like the lights. Guess what? We still have them, right? And in a restaurant where it's not as high, and in the front of it, or the side of it, it's not, as long as it's not sitting next to a home, I wouldn't want to do that with anybody. And controlling the brightness, no, it's a real job for the law and for our lawyer to figure this out. But I do think we need to move on. You may even have something of kind of signage or lights in the civic area. I don't know. Especially when you're having more housing in there, you're having, who knows, maybe a hotel will get in there, I don't know. But I just think we've come to the time in Goodyear and the progress, we need to figure this out. It may not be the same as everybody else's, and it may be a real pain for your department. And in the end, it may not be what everybody wants, but maybe it'll be close enough to satisfy both sides. So I'm looking at your faces like, oh, really? Okay, we're going to go do this. And Katie, I've definitely seen that in your face. So I know that this is not a fun, but I don't know how we can say no to this. All of us knowing all along that they had a sign out. I approached them so long ago about coming to Goodyear. And they didn't come. They went to every place but us. And so this was our chance to get that industry here. And they're good, and people love them. So, and then I guess what really is a problem is that businesses that wanted them, we said absolutely no. And so I don't know how you contend with that unless you put an overlay. Okay, any other comments?
So,
City manager?
Mayor,
Yeah.
may I say one more thing? This isn't about anything associated with our department at all. We're happy to implement council's direction and policy, and that's what we're paid to do, and that's what we're going to do, and we'll figure out the best approach and make those recommendations to you all as this moves forward. So that's what we're here tonight to have that conversation. So thank you for your input. That's
Well, I
we
didn't
got our
mean
marching
that.
orders.
I didn't
so-
mean that as a ding for the department.
No, I didn't. I know you didn't, but I just
but-
wanted to make sure.
I do know the stress it puts on you. There's no question about it. And it's a hard one to figure out and stay within the law. So it's a big job for all of us. And be ready for criticism. Because I can't tell you in the past, there were a number of businesses that wanted some type of attention to their business. So, yeah, Sherry?
You brought up a good point with the stadium, and that you said, Rorik said that entertainment districts are where people come from outside and go in. Isn't that what our stadium really is? It's designed to bring in outside people, not from the city, to come in and go to events there, because we couldn't fill it up with just 10,000 Goodyear residents every time. So could that be the loophole to make that the entertainment district, at least down to the stadium? And the restaurant, I guess there was another shopping mall down there, because that is exactly what that's made for.
We could look at that. I mean, I still have, in my mind, difficulty distinguishing between Estrella and Litchfield or.
No stadium on Litchfield.
I understand.
People are not hitting every single road on Litchfield where people will go to every single spring training stadium for fun from out of town. But you're not helping.
Does density of other business have anything
yeah.
to do with this?
Excuse me.
Does density of an area of business have any more power?
It's really more about distinguishing between the types of use and why you're allowing the use in certain areas versus other areas. And I think it's more defensible if you take like a commercial use. You know, if you have a Culver's on Litchfield, how is that different than a Culver's on Estrella? It's the same type of use, just happens to be on two different streets, although they're both commercial districts. If you get a challenge from a business, how do you defend the government regulation in a certain area? That what you recommend, the stadium may make some sense. A more conservative approach would be to allow it as a matter of right in a commercial district. But we certainly can work within the parameters of the council. It's how strongly do you feel about it? It's
Well, you saw the dialogue here. Everybody thinks we should do it, but then there are a lot of bridges to cross, a lot of leaps to make. So I feel it might be helpful to bring the business community together and have a talk with them and invite those businesses that would want to see a sign and let them hash it out and see what the end result of that is.
Well, Mayor, as long as it doesn't take 6 or 8 or 10 months to do it, I mean, trying to get the business people together now, I mean, I don't know.
Well, it is going to take, this isn't an overnight thing.
No, I know it's not, but I'd like to see it at least before Christmas, if we could.
I would like to see it
6
too,
months.
but I sure don't want to have to take it down. I don't want to have to go to court. I don't want to have to, and that's what we have to make sure that doesn't happen. And
Why
so
would we go to court? I'm sorry, I'm missing something.
somebody could sue us because they wanted one. We didn't allow them to have it.
But
We
they could
didn't
come back
even-
now, couldn't they?
And people that come in this city, and businesses now, came to us and wanted those kind of signs.
Right.
Okay? So that's a known fact. So we have to, I think, proceed cautiously. And I'm for the sign, okay? I think it's important. But I think it's also one reason we didn't get them right away. They went to other cities. Yeah. Bill?
You know, the solution this may be a twofold part where we get this text change done sooner rather than later, and then we go through this public process to fine tune it and then revise that. I know we don't want to do things twice, but on the slide one of the slides, you showed all of the cities that have these things. We are not creating something from scratch. So we should be able to get somewhere quickly, a Band-Aid before the tourniquet, and then we'll fix the problem. But which is kind of what, Sherry's going with. If we draw this line down to the ballpark as a temporary get out of jail free card while we develop the rest of this system, that may be the creative solution that gets us to yes on this one issue, while we then tell everybody else who wanted one of these signs, we are going to work on this program. I mean, that's the kind of solution I think we need to be looking for. But I know, Wally, you're right. This is going to take a year by the time we start going through COVID meetings with 6 people at a time, and there's 36 people that want to talk, so there's 6 meetings, and it's going to take forever. So between the staff, I'm confident that there's a solution there. Let's just hear about it through a staff report. There's a lot of head nods, so I think people are kind of getting what we're talking about.
Any other comments? Well, thank you very much. It is a late hour, it's 9:21, and I think this is the latest we've ever been. And so our next meeting will take place on Monday, June 22nd, with a regular meeting, work session, a special meeting, sounds like a late one again, to begin after the CFD meeting scheduled at 6 o'clock. No further business, this meeting's adjourned.